This is an ABC News Yahoo News live stream. The Democratic National Convention. Live from Charlotte, North Carolina. Here are Amy Walter and Rick Klein.
Hello and welcome once again to Charlotte, North Carolina. We are looking out on the floor of the Time Warner Center Arena, and we are looking forward to night 2 of the Democratic National Convention 2012. Tonight, of course, highlighted by President Clinton, who many expect to give a very strong speech in support of the man who defeated his wife for the Democratic nomination in 2008. It is a remarkable turn of events when you think about the role that Bill Clinton has played in this party and the role he has played as a nemesis at many times to the man who's now president.
That's right, and before we get there, we're going to hear from a range of prominent Democrats. Congressman Barney Frank, the retiring Democrat from Massachusetts, always entertaining. Among them, Elizabeth Warren, the Senate candidate from Massachusetts, and of course, President Clinton is the keynoter of the evening. He is the person that everyone here in the arena has come to see. And of course, Amy, there is some news coming out of Charlotte. We now know that the outdoor event at the Bank of America Stadium, the football field down the street from here, is off. They're citing weather. It's a gorgeous day here in Charlotte, but they are citing weather and saying they're going to keep it inside. So the threat of thunderstorms is going to keep things a little bit drier, a little bit quieter. A lot of upset delegates, or rather attendees, who are expecting tickets to this convention, to the final night tomorrow night. They will keep it inside, however, Amy, and there'll be at least the big moment will have to look a little bit different.
Well, as we broke on our broadcast here at 5 o'clock, we had the COO of the Democratic Convention on here saying no balloons. As you can see, they did not have enough time to set those up. There will be something else, though. They expect some sort of visual imagery that's going to get a festive mood going. We don't quite know what it is. We're thinking maybe a hologram or virtual confetti. Whatever it is, we will have it here.
Speaking of festive moods, we are going to be partying all night long right here at abcnews.com, at Yahoo News, also at the YouTube Politics channel, at Rick Klein, at Amy E. Walter. You can hashtag it DNC 2012. Be part of the conversation. We want it to be interactive. We're going to be bringing you all the best of the speeches, but we're also going to be bringing in some terrific guests throughout the night, some Hollywood guests, some famous for Washington and now famous for Charlotte guests, as well as that. We want to turn now to the floor of the convention, where ABC's senior White House correspondent Jake Tapper is down there. And Jake, how has this changed the planning? Now knowing that we're going to be inside this arena tomorrow night, what is the Obama campaign doing differently to prepare for a different night?
Well, first of all, we should mention the fact that the campaign was originally planning for a replication of 2008, when President Obama was in an enormous 80,000-seat stadium outdoors in Denver. He was hoping for a similar showing at a 74,000-seat stadium here in Charlotte. There are different conflicting weather reports about what exactly is expected tomorrow night. Local news broadcasts say something different from AccuWeather, which says something different from the National Weather Forecast, but we can say there is some chance of thunderstorms tomorrow. And even though Jim Messina, the Obama campaign manager, said that rain or shine, they were going to have it outdoors and they were going to be able to fill all the seats, unless, of course, there was weather that might be dangerous to people, it now looks as though they are opting for the last option, that the weather, they say, could be potentially dangerous, so they're not going to do that. There are now tens of thousands of individuals who did something that the campaign called 931, where volunteers would work for 9 hours, and there were some other requirements to get a seat to that outdoor event, and now tens of thousands of them are just out of luck. They're not going to be able to get in. There are roughly 20,000 seats in this arena, but I think you get once all the equipment and the likes of me and the stand here and my crew are here, it actually gets down to about 15,000 seats, so far fewer people will be in attendance. And then, of course, we have the balloon conundrum. It is going to be off to see a president accept the nomination indoors without balloons. Now, obviously, there were no balloons in 2008 because the president was outdoors with the big Greek columns behind him, and I believe there was a Pegasus horse flying in, if memory serves. That might not be right. I would go check on Wikipedia on the Pegasus. That's just my memory. story. But my only point being, they didn't have balloons then, so they weren't planning for balloons this year, and now indoors it's going to look weird. And so, these things do not always go as planned. We saw that with the Democratic platform. Big debate on the floor, kind of inside baseball. But bottom line, there was some new Israel language that reflected the administration's policy, if not the administration's campaign politics. And that was changed. It didn't mention that Jerusalem would be the position of the Democratic Party, that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. That's now been changed. Jerusalem is back in the party platform as the capital of Israel. And then also, there was originally something in the Democratic Party platform about individuals being able to achieve according to their God-given abilities. I don't know why. We're still trying to figure this out, but apparently the reference to the Almighty didn't go well with somebody, and that was taken out. According to a campaign source, when President Obama heard that God had been taken out of the Democratic platform, he said, well, why did that happen? And now God, you will be happy to hear, Rick and Amy, God is back in the Democratic Party platform. Those are the kinds of unforced errors that happen when you have a democracy in action, and there's some drama, not quite the drama of the Bill Clinton-Barack Obama dynamic, but some of the drama that's been going on here.
Well, for drama, Jake, I'm looking forward to the Pegasus flying through. I've heard there's a rumor that is what they're going to do instead of the balloons, a real Pegasus. So we'll be watching for that. Jake Tapper, thank you very much. We're going to be coming back to you later on tonight to give us that analysis of the Bill Clinton speech and maybe Pegasus. All right. I would love that, by the way.
So would a lot of folks here.
I would love that. But we will see Jake again, and he brings up a good point, which is, these rules committee, we think about them as just sort of pro forma. They're not very sexy, but when there is a problem, we hear about them. And in Tampa, we knew what the issue was. It was a lot about women's issues. Democrats made a lot about that and the language on abortion. And here, Republicans made a lot about and not including God in the rules.
And I would just say it's almost inconceivable that the Obama folks would let this happen, to not be babysitting something as mundane as the platform. There's really no reason for the platform, honestly. Some people behind us get jazzed up about it, but it doesn't actually say anything. So to not make sure it says what you want it to say, given that it's meaningless, is really inexplicable. That's the Romney people got in trouble actually for doing the opposite, for micromanaging it, and now the Obama people get bitten by not being on top of it enough. All right, ABC's John Carl is down on the floor, and John, I know you've been talking to a lot of folks, including some folks who were highlighted last night. Ted Kennedy, the tribute video last night, and John, I understand it that you spent some time with some members of the Kennedy family today.
I sure did, but before I get to that, Rick, I tell you, we're here on the floor, right in the middle of it all, through the Illinois delegation here, Colorado over here, Nevada, and I've got to tell you, we talk about the enthusiasm gap, that, whether or not there is the same kind of enthusiasm that you saw in 2008 for Barack Obama. Well, here, there's no question there is. This is a deafeningly loud crowd when the big speakers happen. They are fired up here. I had somebody tell me just a little while ago that she wakes up every morning and asks, what can I do for Barack Obama? But I did get a chance to talk to Ted Kennedy's two sons, Ted and Patrick, and talked about the presence of their father in this hall yesterday, hearing his voice once again, hearing his voice debate Mitt Romney in that 1994 Senate campaign. Here's a little bit of our conversation.
Well, it was an emotional time, obviously, to see my father's, face and hear his voice and be reminded by, his presence. He was at almost every single convention of the last 50 years, and, he was such a great father, and to see him fight, and it was an emotional time, Jonathan, I have to say, but so it was a little bittersweet, to be truthful.
And just to watch that speech that he gave 4 years ago, just to see an excerpt to that, which was the absolute emotional high point, I think, of that convention.
Well, it was also great to see the old footage of him with Romney running against him in '94.
Multiple choice.
Wasn't it great? I mean, so many of the same issues that are being talked about in this campaign between the president and Mitt Romney were, the debating issues back in '94 when Mitt Romney ran against my father in '94.
And I've got to tell you, there's been a lot of speculation over the years about whether or not Ted Kennedy Jr., who looks and sounds so much like his father, whether or not he would run for office himself. He's a resident of Connecticut. His name's come up from time to time. And when I asked the question, so are you ever going to do it, ever going to run? Patrick answered first and said, I sure hope so. And Ted Kennedy Jr. did tell me that he thinks it would be an honor to have the chance to run for office sometime in the future. So far from ruling it out, he seems to be actively considering it. So we'll see. Could there be another Ted Kennedy running even for the United States Senate sometime down the road?
John, there is another Kennedy running, though, as you well know. That's their cousin who's running to fill the shoes of Barney Frank and for that House seat. Did you guys talk at all about what that was going to be like to put another Kennedy back in the House? Because this is the first time you haven't had a Kennedy sitting in Congress, and I can't remember how many years that's been.
Since the 40s, yeah.
Yeah, since what was it, 44 or so. No, we did talk about Joe, and they are extremely excited about him. They think, of course, he's got a great chance of winning that seat, and they think he's a real star in the family. So they're excited about the fact there won't be that much of a gap potentially between Kennedy serving in the Congress. As you can see, Rich Trumka, the AFL-CIO, getting this crowd pretty fired up. And I got to tell you, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but this is so much louder than what we saw in Tampa. This place, at the culmination moments of the various speeches, is about as loud as I've heard a convention.
John, before you go, I know you've been talking to some folks about Bill Clinton's speech. I want to ask you, the Obama folks, how nervous are they about this speech? Have they read every line of it? Do they know exactly what Bill Clinton's going to be saying tonight?
Well, the first thing when you ask that question, they tell you is this is Bill Clinton's speech, okay? This is not one of those speeches that's written for the campaign, delivered by whoever is talking. He's been in charge of putting this speech together. They say that Clinton has kept in touch personally with senior members of the campaign as the speech has come together. They say they have seen the speech. They say they are comfortable with the speech. But I've got to tell you, Rick, and you know this, Bill Clinton has this tendency of making, it used to drive his speechwriters crazy in the White House, but of making changes to his speeches even as he's heading up to the podium to deliver the speech. So the speech is still evolving. There will still be changes, no doubt, till shortly before he gets on that stage. But they tell me that they are very comfortable with what Bill Clinton will be saying, and they say it will be a full-throated endorsement of the Barack Obama re-election campaign. Of course, he's long ago endorsed it, but a full-throated endorsement of all that Obama represents. He is 100% in. At least that's what they say.
All right, thank you very much, John Carl. We'll come back to you to make sure that came true, that wish came true for the Obama campaign. And I want to check in with our colleague here from Yahoo News, Olivier Knox.
Hi, guys.
Olivier, I want you to take us on a little bit of a different path here. Mm-hmm. I understand that you sat down with the DJ.
That's right.
Of the entire event.
That's right. The self-described house band of the Democratic National Convention, DJ Cassidy, celebrity party player who travels all over the world, plays for fellow stars, for politicians and other folks. He's got a great seat here, and apart from the speaker, he's probably the person most responsible for setting the mood.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering. Does he pick the songs that the speakers come out to, or is it like baseball players who get to come out and pick their own music before they get up to bat?
We'll see if you can spot the euphemism.
Okay.
The choice of the playlist is a collaborative effort with the Obama campaign.
Effort. Was that the euphemism?
Close.
Oh, God. All right. One word off there, Olivier. Very
yes.
Good. So, all right. So, what is the idea? This doesn't feel like a basketball arena with the music, but there are times where they try to rev up the crowd. What is the idea in terms of keeping the energy moving in between a lot of political speeches?
Right. Well, basically, you play someone on, you play someone off. It cuts down on the dead time. You get some fist pumping out there sometimes, and it just keeps the energy level high. And he's got a different song for each person coming on and coming off. And is keeping all of those pretty close to the vest.
So is there any way I can request a song? I do love It Takes Two, so I would love if we could do that.
Well, if you're speaking down there, you've got a better shot.
All right, so did he give you any clues as to what Bill Clinton might get for his song?
What's his batting music exactly?
Well, I asked, and I got a very political response that he couldn't possibly tell me before it happened, which actually resembles the White House briefing room in some ways.
Don't stop something or other. I don't know. Just a thought. I don't know. We don't know. Olivia, let's talk about this because it's so extraordinary in the broad scope that President Clinton is called out of the bullpen here to try to save President Obama at the convention. What are the Obama folks saying about the speech tonight? What are they looking for? Do they realize there's obviously a danger of being overshadowed, but they realize that they need him for a message right now?
Right. Well, they take issue with the overshadowed argument. They're saying basically they want people to remember this speech. They need people to remember this speech. They need certain segments of the voting public to remember this speech. So it's not so much overshadowed as they really want that reflected glory, that reflected popularity. President Clinton walks on the stage tonight. He's at 69% approval in Gallup. It's his highest number in a really long time. The overshadowed thing, I haven't heard them worry too much about that.
All right, but can we get to the heart of the conspiracy theory about the Bank of America venue change?
Right.
Republicans have been spending a lot of today looking at weather reports and tweeting them out saying there's a 20% chance they're doing this only because of rain. They're only doing this because they're going to be embarrassed by empty seats. What's your take when all is said and done about what was going on in the minds of the Obama campaign as they made this decision?
Well, you guys know from talking to the Obama campaign that if you ask them about their ground game, you can't shut them up.
Yeah.
They brag about it. They talk about it at the drop of a hat. It's going to make the difference in the election. Do you really think that they'd go out and essentially anger 50,000 or so volunteers, people who put in 9 hours to get this ticket? Do we really think that was their big, clever move?
Right, just to make sure that nobody saw that there were a few seats empty.
Right, I mean, they said that they had about 65,000 tickets in an arena that seats about 74,000. So there would have been some empty sections, but nothing really meaningful. And I wonder. I mean, it seems unlikely, especially in North Carolina, that they would risk alienating volunteers for a 20% chance of rain.
Give up on that opportunity, but I have to think, Olivier, that their thinking is colored a bit by the energy last night. This is a perfectly good venue, and Michelle Obama made it a terrific venue in short order. They realize they have the energy, they have the opportunity here, and for the people watching at home, whether it's open air or there's a roof over our heads, really doesn't matter.
That's absolutely right. The television pictures are still going to show a cheering crowd, a packed house. You're right. They're going to get roughly the same television photos, the pictures that they would have had in the stadium. That's got to be something.
All right, Olivier Knox from Yahoo News. Thanks for being here. We'll check in with you tonight and tomorrow. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
So Amy, I do think it's interesting. We've heard different things from the campaign about what they're expecting from Bill Clinton. Because we've heard at various times, okay, he's going to be out there and do his own thing. He's going to go out there and he'll hit the ball out of the park because we know what he's going to do. Other times they say, well, he's going to have his own message. We know it's going to be out there. It is just so interesting that they have to go to him and they know exactly what he has to deliver. What he can reach, what he can do for the electorate is exactly what President Obama can.
And it's good news that we have somebody who can help us decipher all of this. How is this all going to come together? Brent Colburn, who, of course, is communications director for the Obama campaign. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be up here.
All right, so how do you make this evening seem seamless? And I'm speaking not just about the Bill Clinton handing the torch to the President Obama, but also Elizabeth Warren is coming before President Clinton. Elizabeth Warren, we think of as a populist fighter. She was the one who really started that whole if you build something, it's because we all helped you get there. How does that match up with a President Bill Clinton who's known for welfare reform, for signing NAFTA, for saying the era of big government is over?
First of all, I think you just need to look back at last night to see that what we have as a unifying factor in this convention, unlike what we saw in Tampa, are speakers from all walks of life that are all talking about one thing. And that's why they believe that the president should be reelected and get 4 more years in office. Some folks spoke to that from personal experience. Some are policymakers who have worked with the president on these issues, but they all have their own personal reason for that. So you're going to see a lot of different perspectives on the presidency, but they're all going to come away giving you a little sense of why he should remain in the White House.
Brent, we're going to take a little pause because we're going to go down to the floor right now where Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House, the House Democratic leader from California, is addressing delegates.
Sure.
Good evening. isn't that American dream story the story of America? We are all here to reignite the American dream. That is why I'm so pleased to see so many young people, the future of our party, the hope of America. I stand before you as the first mother and first grandmother to serve as Democratic leader and first Speaker of the House of Representatives. For 25 years, it has been my privilege to represent the city of San Francisco and the great state of California. To strengthen our vibrant middle class and to secure opportunity and equality. We all stand together in our drive for 25 seats to win back the House for the Democrats.
All right, Brent Coburn, and we should say throughout the night, if you want to watch the speeches, abcnews.com, we're live streaming them all. We're going to be here all night at abcnews.com and at Yahoo News, providing the best insight and analysis. So, Brent, how much of an opportunity lost is it from an organizing perspective, from an OFA perspective, to not have those 65,000 people from North Carolina, Virginia in the stadium tomorrow night?
Well, we were obviously very disappointed to have to make the call that we made this morning. We feel it's the right call, regardless of what the weather does end up being tomorrow. I think everyone on our campaign is going to sleep well tonight, knowing that we made the right call from a public safety perspective. And again, this is not just the public safety of our supporters. It's members of the media. It's the law enforcement personnel that have to work. It's the volunteers and staff from our team. And safety has to come first. Now, that being said, this is a little bit of a lost opportunity for us. As we saw in Denver, this is a great chance for us to bring people together, talk directly to them, and organize them. That being said, we have all of their email addresses. We've been in contact with all of these people before. We're going to be reaching out to them. We're doing a conference call with the president tomorrow, just for those individuals who couldn't attend Thursday night's speech. And he'll be talking to them directly about how important it is for them to remain in the process, for them to keep working to get him reelected in November, and for them to reach out to their friends and neighbors. So we'll be back in North Carolina. We're going to see as many of those people as we can, but we were disappointed to have to make that call.
So he's not going to go to all of their houses between now and the election?
I got to tell you, it's funny because we've heard the Republicans out there pushing this idea that this was a political decision, that we for some reason wouldn't have wanted to do this speech. It's based on such a false premise or a false understanding of what our campaign is about. Look, we want as many Americans as possible, either in the stadium, in the arena, or on television, to see the president deliver his speech tomorrow night. He is our number one communicator when it comes to his message. We find the more our candidate is out there talking to people, the better we're doing in the polls. So we're disappointed we had to make the choice, but it was the right thing to do, and we're going to keep moving forward.
Brent, before you go, I just want to have you answer one question about this rules fight that just went on here. Apparently, the president now, according to sources that Jake Tapper has, telling him that the president was surprised that the word God had been taken out of this. Tell us, when did the campaign become aware of this, and were you on top of this process of putting this platform together the whole time?
I can't speak specifically to when we knew about the word God not being in the one place it had been before. What I can tell you is we had worked hard to ensure that faith was reflected in the platform. Something that's been lost in this whole discussion is that there's an entire faith section of the platform that talks about the importance of faith, the importance of our clergy and faith in our communities. So as soon as we saw that there was this oversight, obviously we moved to correct it through the correct process, which was the amendment process you saw tonight. I think we now have a platform that reflects the president's personal feelings on things, and a platform, again, unlike the Republicans last week, a platform we want everyone to read cover to cover. We're proud of it. We think it reflects the president's values, his priorities, and his policies, and a platform that we feel we can run on heading into November.
You want us to read the platform, really?
We'd love it. I got to tell you, it's funny. Every time
no guarantees. Sorry.
Every time that the Republicans pick these little battles over word choice, all we can think is, obviously they haven't read this thing. They haven't looked at the context of what's going on around these false attacks and these kind of baseless attacks that they throw out there. Someone was saying today about tomorrow in the call that we made, we're sure of two things, right? When we wake up tomorrow, we don't know exactly what the weather will be. We made our best guess, and we know that we're going to get attacked by the Republicans no matter what we do. So we'll be ready for both and look forward to a really exciting day here in the arena with President Obama accepting the renomination.
All right, Brent Coburn from the Obama campaign, thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Really appreciate it. We're going to throw things down to the convention floor, where ABC's Cokie Roberts will be joining us all evening long. And Cokie, let's talk a little about the enthusiasm down there. A lot of noise early on. We had the crescendo of last night leading up to Michelle. What is the mood down there? What's the sense?
People are very excited to be here, and I think part of the reason for it, Rick, is that what you've got here is unlike at the Republican convention, and this has been true for a very long time now. At the Republican convention, they bring a lot of people of diverse backgrounds up on the stage, but the actual delegates tend to be overwhelmingly white. And that's just not the case here. So that there's an excitement level when somebody like Michelle Obama comes on the stage, where they just, particularly the African American women, just get incredibly enthusiastic because they recognize her. She's someone that they can relate to, and that was certainly true last night with Julian Castro as well, with the Hispanics in the audience, of whom there are a great many. So it's been, people recognizing the people who are speaking and getting very excited about it. We had a rousing speech tonight from Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, an African American who used to be mayor of Kansas City, and he talked about diversity is not a curse of America, it's a blessing for America. And that's what this crowd is trying to celebrate. And they feel that the speakers are doing it with them and for them. And the enthusiasm is enormous. And no matter who comes out, even if they're kind of a boring bureaucrat, that happens. They get excited. We're in the position where we can see who is coming out. We can look right backstage into the next speakers coming, and we can see them kind of getting the word to not talk too long. That's always an important message. But they hear the speaker before them revving up the crowd, and they start to get revved up. It's very much a revival rally.
What do you think we're going to hear from Bill Clinton, and what do you think his ability is to electrify the crowd in the way we saw Michelle Obama really light things up last night?
Well, if you listen right now, what you're hearing is the crowd responding to Nancy Pelosi, the House Minority Leader. So when you have that kind of response to Nancy Pelosi, I think you can expect a very rousing response to Bill Clinton. Now, he has to be careful not to go on too long. As we all remember, in 1988, it was when he said, in conclusion, that the crowd started to cheer. But he, I think, is now seen as a beloved senior statesman in the party, not the kind of divisive figure that he was during and after his presidency. And of course, his presidency is remembered as a time when the economy was thriving, the budget was in surplus, people were doing well. And so his challenge is going to be not to keep reminding people of that, which he says he's not going to do, that he's going to talk about Barack Obama and why he's for Barack Obama and why the actions Obama has taken in the last 4 years were the correct actions. But look, is there going to be a segment of this crowd, certainly, and of the viewing audience that starts thinking, gee, I wish he were still president? That's a danger. That's a real danger. Yeah. And it's one that President Obama has just decided to go ahead and court.
All right, ABC's Cokie Roberts with the podium cam tonight for the live stream. Loving it. Thank you so much, Cokie. We'll check in later. We're joined now in the booth by former governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson.
Thank you. Nice to be with you guys.
Thanks for being here, Governor. Of course, you worked for President Clinton in the cabinet. You campaigned against and then for President Obama. What are you expecting tonight? It's an amazing moment where the former president vouching for the current one.
I think there's symbolism, there's a metaphor out there, and this is the metaphor. President Clinton had a surplus. He had a balanced budget. He had technology jobs, millions of new jobs. They were taken away when a Republican president came in. That surplus disappeared. I think it's not a question of validating President Obama. He's simply saying President Obama should be given another 4 years. I was given 4 additional years to give us this excellent economy, and this president deserves it because he stands with us, because he's got the right things. He just needs support from the other side.
But there is a big difference when Bill Clinton came to the stage in 1996. Obviously, the economy was a lot better, but also this was a president that, like Barack Obama, went through a very tough midterm, lost control of Congress, but then tacked over, some would say he tacked to the right, but certainly moved to the center, started working with Republicans, passing legislation with Newt Gingrich. This president hasn't been able to do that. So at what point does that become part of the real distinction between these two presidents?
Well, if you'll recall, for all the demonizing of Newt Gingrich, he did work with President Clinton.
So you wish you had a Newt Gingrich as Speaker now?
Well, no, I'm just saying that he worked with me on passing NAFTA. I was one of the few Democrats from NAFTA. He and I combined. It was obviously the White House helped, and he got more Republican votes than Democratic votes. But there was that still remaining spirit of bipartisanship. When President Obama came into office his second year, the Republican leader said, our objective is to defeat him, not give him anything, not give him any bit of help. I mean, when you have that attitude, when you have the Tea Party literally dominating the Republican Party, it's very hard to get anything done.
So we're at an era now where Republicans are pining for the Clinton era and Democrats are pining for Newt Gingrich. Wow. I never thought we would say that.
No, look, all I'm saying is that this is a different era. And President Clinton, I think, is going to embrace President Obama as he should. They're working together. They're different kind of people. Obama is cool. Clinton is a schmoozer. He's a people person. Obama is more intellectual, more technical. Both are great speakers. But I think it's a merging of the party, the centrist, the moderate party with a progressive side. Obama is both. Clinton was both. And that's what's going to happen tonight.
What's changed with the energy? What's changed with the enthusiasm? What's changed with the party that clearly Barack Obama didn't need Bill Clinton's active support 4 years ago and so clearly does now?
Well, look, this is going to be a very, very tight race. Who's going to decide this race? It's going to be whether you motivate women again, whether you motivate young people, minorities, and you're going to motivate independent voters. Now, Bill Clinton is strong with all of these. We're talking about 6 or 7 states. Clinton was the first Democratic president to win states like New Mexico in a long time, Colorado, Nevada. Clinton won Montana. I don't think Obama's able to do that one.
Yeah,
but
I'm not going to put that on the map. Yeah.
No, don't put it on the map. North Carolina, maybe. But I've been sitting here, and I just think the election will be settled by the Hispanic vote, by Nevada, Colorado, Florida. This was why I was personally afraid that Rubio would get on the ticket. I got to admit that. I'm glad he's not on the ticket. Because I think these states on the immigration, on the DREAM Act issue, you heard a lot of that tonight on the issue of Hispanic being part of the American dream. These are the states that are going to settle the election, and you've got to get those Hispanic voters to do what they've always done with people like Bill Clinton, get 65% of the national Hispanic vote. I think President Obama is going to do it. I see very little chance that Mitt Romney will get what George Bush got in his 2 elections, which is about 40% of the Hispanic vote.
So you look at North Carolina, and what you're a little skeptical, it sounds like, of being able to win this state again.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people here who've been here. You know, I'm now a 2-day expert.
Yes, of course.
But,
we all are.
And
I'm an expert on the restaurants, so.
And there are a few biased people that I talk to. But I think we have a shot. You know, the high-tech corridor, the university corridor here, the African-American vote, and 13% Hispanic vote in this state.
Yeah.
So I think it's doable, but I wouldn't put it in the toss-up leaning Democrat column. I'd put it as a toss-up. And that's the same with the Colorado and Nevada and Florida. You know, it's going to be a very close race, and you need every possible vote. You got to motivate your base. This is what's happening here.
What is the secret to the Hispanic vote? What did Democrats have to do? We saw that parade of prominent Republicans last week. A little bit lighter of a bench this week, although we had Mayor Castro last night. But what is it? Is there some key in terms of relating to the Hispanic vote that's going to make this happen?
I think you got to relate to them as Americans, not just as Latinos. You know, the day where you trot out the mariachis and speak a little Spanish, you don't do that anymore. You say, I'm going to create jobs, I'm going to find ways to educate you, but then you got to give them a sense that you're on our side, like immigration, like the DREAM Act. You know, when Romney said he's going to veto it, you know, these are soldiers, American soldiers that simply want, you know, a path to legalization. You get a sense that maybe they're not very welcome in that party. But I got to hand it to Republicans. They have more national and statewide elected officials than we do.
And why is that?
I don't know.
Come on, you have a theory.
Well, I have a theory that I think they were very good at recruiting in the last cycle. And sometimes, you know, Democrats are not good with Hispanics when it comes to redistricting. They rather keep the incumbent and, you know, find ways to keep incumbent protection there. I think that has to change in our party. And Republicans, I think, were a little better at that, recruiting and some of the redistricting issues. But when it comes to issues, I think Democrats are far better, far stronger. And President Obama's, I believe, going to have huge support in the Hispanic community, but it's turnout. We want everyone voting. We want them to turn out en masse, not just turn out as a percentage.
Right. Before you go, has your long-running now feud with Bill Clinton thought at all? Are you talking to him at all? Is it repaired, the relationship?
No, the feud is ongoing and probably permanent. I've tried to reach out to him, but he doesn't care about guys like me. You know, he doesn't. You know, he feels that if he were running, if he had been, I would have endorsed him. But it was Secretary Clinton, who I like too. But I thought there was something special about Obama. But you know, he wants to continue isolating me, bad-mouthing me. Fine. Right. I'm fine. I'm doing very well.
We
I'm
know
very happy.
You're looking good. You're looking good. Did you sign our?
I did.
I did.
Right.
Okay.
Let's
good.
see.
I see some.
That's pretty good. What is? Okay,
what's going on at the bottom there? Do we know what's happening there?
It looks like deer tracks. Is that what that is?
It's the New Mexico deer tracks. Yeah.
No, really. Is that what that is?
No, I didn't say. I didn't.
That
wasn't even you. That wasn't even you. All right.
But I'm like Sam Donaldson, the great ABC guy from New Mexico, Roswell, New Mexico.
We love it. We'll have your constituent, former constituent on in a few minutes. Bill Richardson, the former governor. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Right now on the floor is Barbara Mikulski, the longest-serving female senator in the history of the Republic. Take a look. Barbara Mikulski.
Well, because we understand the American we love grows the economy and opportunity from the middle out, not the top down. These are our priorities. These are President Obama's priorities. We know that every issue is a women's issue. And equal pay for equal work is an all-American issue. The 77 cents that women make for every dollar men earn makes a real difference to our families. Families stretching to make every dollar count. We are so proud that the first law signed by President Barack Obama was the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. The first bill was about America's first principles: equality, opportunity, and prosperity. Now, those Republicans in the Senate tried to block our efforts to go further and end pay discrimination once and for all. But hey, we, the women of the Senate, with President Obama by our side, we're going to keep fighting. Our shoulders square, our lipstick on, because you deserve equal pay for your hard work.
Well, there is Barbara Mikulski, the longest-serving Democratic woman in the Senate, with her colleagues, women members of the Senate. And if you believe it, 1985, She ran for the United States Senate, and she was the first Democratic woman elected in her own right, which is pretty remarkable. That wasn't all that long ago that happened,
not.
and now she's joined by many of her colleagues. Indeed.
And we are joined up in the booth by New Mexico's first citizen, maybe second citizen after Bill Richardson, Sam Donaldson, Mr. Conventions himself, Mr. Politics. Thanks for being here so much.
It's always a pleasure. Bill Richardson, when he was governor, used to say, I represent the three cultures of New Mexico in one. My father was an Anglo. My mother, a Mexican citizen, doesn't speak a word of English today. And I look like a Native American.
It works well all around. Okay, the big dog tonight. You covered his White House. You followed him for years. What are we expecting from Bill Clinton? What has he got to do tonight? What can he do for Barack Obama?
He's going to do a great speech. Now, if you don't like him or you don't like his policies, it won't be a great speech. But he never gives a bad speech. He knows a lot. He has that ability to make us feel his pain. Remember, this is the man on his second his second State of the Union address. Came to the podium in the House chamber to deliver it. And a young aide of his named George, I forgot George's name, had put in the wrong teleprompter script. And for 7 minutes, no one knew that Bill Clinton had no script and no teleprompter. He's good.
He's the best.
We don't want to see that happening here, but no. It could. But is there some sort of, thinking about the Bill Clinton years and what people walk away from the Bill Clinton years, no deficit, right, by the end of it. He talked about ending government, big government as we knew it, or, reforming government. He worked with Republicans. There was that whole so-called triangulation. Looks very different from the Barack Obama presidency.
Well, yes, he'll say four balanced budgets in a row. Who was that president? And yes, he signed the welfare reform bill. Mario Cuomo and the liberals in the party said that's terrible. He triangulated. However, he's not going to say Barack Obama didn't match me. He'll say, and then we had 8 years of Republican rule and put us right in the hole. And the first rule of holes is stop digging. We stopped digging. We were climbing out. President Obama is climbing out. We understand the middle class. You heard Michelle. You'll hear him. You know me. I mean, it's going to be he doesn't do a stem winder. Earlier tonight, we heard from Emmanuel Cleaver, who's the chairman of the Black Caucus, pastor from Kansas City. He was in that pulpit. And last night, we heard from governors who were in that pulpit. He doesn't yell and scream, Bill Clinton. But by the end of the speech, they will be on the floor because arguably he's the most admired Democrat in the country.
That's right. We're hearing now behind us. That's the ovation for the Democratic women of the Senate as they file off. Quite a band there. Sam, let's climb into Bill Clinton's head because it's such an interesting place to be. If you believe the totally unfounded speculation that Hillary may seek the presidency in 2016.
Of course she's going
to. We heard it here.
Of course.
Oh, good.
I mean, of course.
For the sake of our profession, you're saying.
Yes, no. There's no doubt about it. If her health stays good, and I hope it does, just anyone, she'll be the candidate who going to be. She will organize the caucus states next time. Oh, had she organized the caucus states last time, she would have been the nominee of the Democratic Party.
Okay, so you say it's no doubt about it. So if you are Bill Clinton, do you want Barack Obama to be a re-elected president and you're running as the heir to that legacy?
Sure.
Or do you want to have a Mitt Romney administration that you can then run against and organize not just the inside the Democratic Party, but a larger group and say, we know it's easier to run against an incumbent than as a challenger?
Well, but remember, Hillary Clinton and all of her people were so smart. She could have had the nomination in 2004, I think, for the taking. And could she have beaten George W. Bush? I'm not sure, but it would have been a contest. But the smart people, Ira Magid, they all told me she has to be reelected. No, you get the brass ring when you have it. So you want to game plan who should be the president in the next 4 years. If it's Barack Obama, I think she has no problem with the party. If it's Mitt Romney, then you have to believe that she can take him. I don't know whether she could or not, but I'm just saying that.
But having the open shot on.
Yeah. Well, that's right. She wanted to wait for the open shot in 2008. Where are you, Madam President?
Right. Politics is all about timing, and you got to be in the right place at the right time. All right. The one person we haven't spent as much time talking about is Elizabeth Warren, and she's a Senate candidate. But what we also know about her is she is the person who really started this talk of you didn't get there by yourself. There were other people along the way. This road didn't just show up here. Your tax dollars went to build it. Other people helped you build it. The exact thing that Republicans are using against Barack Obama, right?
That's
You
right.
didn't build it, saying that he has a collectivist view of government. Why put Elizabeth Warren out there, who in many ways is embracing the thing that Republicans are trying to use against Obama?
Well, you asked the kind of question like, why take God out of the platform? Minor little slip. I mean, who knows why people do funny things? Because Republicans really don't like her. She can be abrasive because she, forgive me, she's a fine person, I believe, but she's sort of like Newt Gingrich. She walks in a room and kind of tells you how smart she is. No, and they don't like that because a lot of people, including myself, aren't as smart as she is, and we don't want her to tell us that. I don't know whether she has an Indian ancestry or not. I don't know about these small things in Massachusetts. People tell me it's going to be a real race, but I don't think she's a shoo-in at all. Do you?
But it's her
of course not.
No, it's not. But it's her overall message, right? That this whole, did you build it? Who built it? Was it a community? Was it the individual? That's really the central argument Republicans are making against President Obama. She's coming out there really to embrace it.
But it's kind of I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know why she's there. I mean,
Okay.
But it's a silly argument, of course. People build their businesses and they work hard. And an individual, everyone uses Steve Jobs. Forget him. He was fired. He came back and all right. And they deserve the credit, but they can't do it alone in this country. Everybody needs a little help, not necessarily from government, but often from government. Now, the highway system, the transportation, all of that. No man is an island. You've heard of John Dune, right? If a clod be washed away from Europe and all of that. So to kind of make it seem that one person, all by themselves, can do a great big business without any help is silly. I mean, excuse me.
Our very good friend, Sam Donaldson, still not on Twitter despite my continual lobbying. I am going to get this done. Stuff Sam Donaldson says it's so easy. Or stuff Sammy's D says. I'll give you any Twitter hashtag you want. I will make it happen.
Could I give you one more statistic? I know we have another guest.
Yes, please.
Bill Clinton, when he left the presidency, his Gallup approval rating, and that was Monica and all of that, was 1 point higher than was Ronald Reagan's when he left the presidency. The next day, we understood that he'd pardoned all the crooks, and it dropped momentarily.
And it's gone right back up.
Yeah.
And right back up. All right, Sam Donaldson. Very good friend.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Amy, Rick.
It's amazing what a good economy does to your approval ratings, doesn't it?
Just like that.
Has a real serious impact in a positive way
It is
about
so
that.
easy.
But
well, we're about 45 minutes into our live stream today. Again, we're going to be on beyond 11 o'clock tonight, taking all of the best speeches, dipping in and out, some terrific guests. We've already had some really good ones. I'm surprised to hear Bill Richardson talk about that feud with Bill Clinton. It's still
still going on. And you know what I love is whenever anybody says, "Oh, I don't care, it doesn't bother me." I mean, he doesn't talk to me, it doesn't bother me. It usually bothers you a little bit. I mean, the fact is, they were close. He obviously served in his cabinet. But it does go to show, too, again, we're remarking about this, the fact that this man is going to come out on stage and basically make the case for Barack Obama, even though he ran against his wife. And obviously, Bill Clinton, we know, can hold a couple of grudges, as we've learned. In this case, not as much.
All right.
Hello.
Well, hello
Leon
again.
Cruz from Univision.
How are you?
Our good friends over at Univision have been paying as much attention to this convention as we have. Tell us, from just the last 2 days that you've been here, your sense in terms of the difference between being in Tampa and being here in Charlotte.
That's a great question. I wanted to start just by saying that what a great honor it is to be sitting here after the great Sam Donaldson. It was really wonderful.
We should note, people have been very excited to see a lot of our guests here, but I think Sam Donaldson got more people taking pictures than anyone else.
Absolutely.
He is an institution. We love him.
It's an honor. That's a very good question because I noticed very clear differences in the tone of the convention, especially when it comes to the first day. We're going to see what happens today, but when you compare the first day in Tampa with the first day here, it's completely different. No, when you see, for example, when you compare Christie's speech with Julian Castro's speech, and the way he was received by his brother backstage, hugs, smiles, kisses. It's warmer. I don't know if it's part of a strategy. It probably is, because in politics, what is not a strategy? Everything's a strategy. But it's very clear to me that People over there were, speakers over there were angry, aggravated, irritated, and here the strategy is completely different. Even the stage is softer, the tones are softer, so it's very clear to me that they're trying to sell a very different product.
How do you mean? I mean, obviously, you heard them kind of changing the message on the other side of the other convention last week. They were talking about the economy quite a bit, but
yeah.
What do you mean by a harder edge?
Well, for me, first of all, the tone was different all around, and the speeches, I think, were amounted to a 3-day ad hominem attack on Obama. And that's, for example, one of the questions I want answered today by Bill Clinton, the main speaker of the second day, versus the main speaker of the second day in Tampa, which was Paul Ryan, with that very famous, infamous speech, I might add, which was basically focused on Barack Obama. Will Bill Clinton, I should ask you guys, will Bill Clinton focus on Mitt Romney? The ex-president of the United States use some of his time to attack the Republican candidate? That's a question I had for you guys.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't in some way. Almost every speaker has, even except for maybe Michelle Obama. But I do think that his speech is more about making the positive case and the messaging around Barack Obama for a second term.
Yeah, and I think that the big difference between Tampa and this convention, and maybe the reason you see that difference in tone, is it's a lot easier when you're the party out of power to look like you're angry and that you have a message that looks so negative, because you're asking people you're asking people to fire someone.
Absolutely.
These guys are asking people, they're asking you to say no. These guys are asking you to say yes.
Yeah, Donald Trump is always angry, no?
Well, that's a whole different category. I can't even get into that. So
you're right.
That's the first Trump reference of the week. I didn't think it would come from you, Leon.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
I had to do it.
It keeps us interested. So talk about Bill Clinton in the Latino community. How is he viewed, and what is it about his appeal that you think still resonates with voters so long after he's left office?
Well, there's a little something that's just intangible, no? This charisma that the man has all around. Obviously, his approval ratings are sky high, have been for a long time now. But with minorities, he has just this knack to appeal to them, no? Obviously, this famous phrase of the first African American president, he earned that for himself, and obviously with the Hispanic community, it's the same. One of my questions during the 2008 campaign was how Latino voters would react to Barack Obama versus Hillary Clinton, no? Being that the Clintons are so well loved among the Hispanic community. It was sort of a miracle, in my opinion, that Obama managed to pull it off, because they are really well loved with the Hispanic community. They just have, and especially ex-President Clinton, they just have this knack. It's charisma. It's something that you can't define, no?
All right, Leon Croes, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it from our friends at Univision.
Thank you.
Great to have your insights throughout this convention. So
it's a pleasure being with you.
All right, a lot of people have asked, how did conventions start? We have an answer for you. This is how it all began.
Obviously, there was not a DJ present at that time either. The old-timey music was impressive there. Thank you, ABC News, for that. But I really appreciate it more than ever to have a DJ spinning for us. But speaking of spinning for us, we got the author of Spinners and Winners, John Carl, our own intrepid reporter on the floor for ABC News, who has DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz with him. John Carl, take it from here.
Amy, we have her right here. This is your show, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Congratulations on I mean, you had to be very pleased with that first night.
It was an incredible first night, but let's be clear, this is Barack Obama's show, and it's our opportunity to make sure that we can showcase to America his platform, his priorities, and his vision, that we should make sure that if you work hard and play by the rules, that in America, everyone should have a chance to be successful and not just focus on the people who are already are successful.
All right, well, you mentioned the platform, so I'm going to take that literally.
Sure.
What was with that fight over whether or not God is in the platform, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel? I mean, where did all that come from?
There was no fight at all. I mean,
So how did it happen?
Well, essentially, it was a technical correction. President Obama wanted to make sure, and we already had a 100% strong pro-Israel platform that we all were very proud to support. But President Obama, because he personally believes that Jerusalem is and always should remain the capital of Israel, he wanted to make sure that the platform reflected his personal view and also reflected the same language that we had in the 2008 platform. So essentially, it was a clarification and a technical correction.
What about God? God was in the platform.
You know, while we were amending the platform, we also included a reference to God and an acknowledgement that God has an important place in American life.
But you would acknowledge that there are some strong supporters of Israel that have questions about the commitment of this president supporting Israel.
Well, what I can tell you is that the overwhelming majority of Jewish voters support President Obama, both because he has a domestic agenda that reflects the values of the Jewish community, the values that say we should invest in education and make sure that people can remain healthy and protect the safety nets like Social Security and Medicare and not yank them out from under people, and also that he has an incredibly strong pro-Israel record, that he's always had Israel's back. He proved yet again by making sure that we have Jerusalem language in our platform that says Jerusalem is and always will be is the capital of Israel, that he has Israel's back and always will.
Okay, so Bill Clinton tonight.
Yeah.
Have you seen the speech?
I've seen parts of the speech.
Is it still evolving? I mean, I heard about an hour or so ago there were still some tweaks going on.
Well, if I know President Clinton, I wouldn't be at all surprised if it were still evolving, but I think he's going to electrify this hall tonight. We're going to leave here after he makes the case for President Obama and talks about the clear choice that we have in front of us and makes the case that, like when he was president and presided over the longest sustained period of prosperity, that if you have balance, if you ask people to pay their fair share and give them a fair shot and have them play by the same set of rules, that people can thrive and we can build the middle class, we can build the economy from the middle class out and the bottom up, not go back to the failed policies of the past that really crashed our economy and got us into the worst economic crisis we've faced since the Great Depression. There's no one that can make that case like President Clinton, and I'm so excited to hear his message tonight, as are our delegates.
And 2008's a distant memory. He is 100%, he is all in.
He's all in. He'll make that case tonight, and he's been a really important part of our campaign team to ensure that Americans understand that there are two paths and two visions, two very distinct directions we could go, and that we need to continue to move forward.
Okay, Gabby Giffords, there's a report that she's here in Charlotte. She's going to be doing the pledge. Is that true?
Gabby is home in Tucson. She is enjoying being back in Arizona, and I'm so proud of the progress that she's made.
So she is not here in North Carolina?
She's not here.
Is she watching the convention? Have you heard? Is she?
Oh, I know she was going to be watching the convention. Yeah, we talked about it, and she's looking forward to all the proceedings.
Okay, so one last word for me. When you look out and you hear this place, and we were talking earlier, this place gets deafeningly loud.
Yes.
What do you feel? I mean, you've been working on this thing for how long? I mean, what?
Well, 16 months. Every day that I've been chair of the DNC, and this is the moments that we've been waiting for, because we committed, and now we're executing the most inclusive, participatory, community-oriented nominating convention that's ever been put on in American politics. We're a people-powered campaign, a people-powered party, and we're looking forward to sending President Obama out of this convention with the kind of momentum that he'll need over the next 60 days from Friday to take him back to the White House for a second term.
And the change of venue, I mean, that had to entail a lot of extra cost.
I mean, yeah, but you know what? Safety was the most important thing. It was certainly disappointing for us, disappointing for the president, and we know it's disappointing for the 65,000 people who actually registered a community credential. But tomorrow, President Obama will talk to those folks on a conference call, a national conference call, and we're going to have an event with him for those people who held the community credential between now and Election Day. So they'll get their opportunity when the weather's a little better.
Okay, all right. Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem.
All right, there you have it. Rick and Amy.
All right, thank you, John. And that's a little bit of a mystery. We actually had confirmation from an Obama campaign official earlier that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is in Charlotte.
Gabby Giffords is in Charlotte.
I'm sorry, that Gabby Giffords is in Charlotte, so we're going to have to try to square that fact, whether or not she appears here, what city she's in. She was very definitive. She is not here.
And remember, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is very close with Gabby Giffords and would know better than anybody about her whereabouts.
The other piece of business that she addressed there was the little bit of fight in the platform. Take a look at what happened a few hours earlier. Usually this is just a voice vote, nothing happens. Take a look at the discussion over the platform.
All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 have voted in the affirmative. The motion is adopted. And the platform has been amended as shown on the screen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, and you could hear some of the booing there in the audience. We're getting some video there of some Arab Americans. They had signs there saying
not happy about that.
Not very happy with that change. But I want to switch gears just a little bit here now to take us to a state not in North Carolina, but we're talking about Ohio. And this is the Ohio Democratic Party Chairman Chris Redford. First of all, I noticed that Ted Strickland, though, is chairing that committee, right? So did you talk to him at all about this issue, about whether God was in the platform and how this all came about?
Well, to be honest with you, we've spent the better part of the last several weeks talking about Ohio's economy and the importance of the automobile industry in Ohio and the work that President Obama and Senator Brown did to save the American automobile industry. And as you know, 850,000 jobs in the Buckeye State is the difference between winning and losing. And in Ohio, we have a tendency to pick presidents. And this year, it's going to be about that decision, a decision that Mitt Romney opposed and still opposes.
That was a pretty impressive turn, by the way. You just turned it right onto what you wanted.
Well, I got to tell you, in the Buckeye State, it's about the economy, and an economy that Barack Obama has helped build manufacturing jobs in places like Toledo, iconic brands like Jeep and Chevy Cruze, and places like Lordstown and Youngstown. So it's going to be important. 850,000 Ohio jobs were saved because of that one decision, a decision that even today Mitt Romney has doubled down and opposed.
What is it in Ohio? A lot of Democrats ask the same question. Remember, we used to say, what's the matter with Kansas? I've heard Democrats say, what's going right in Ohio? A lot of folks a year or two ago may have thought this is slipping away from us. Something has changed. Is it just the auto bailout?
Well, no, it wasn't a bailout. It was a rescue. Those workers are like the workers who worked at Norfolk Southern in the 70s when Richard Nixon extended short-term loans to save the rail industry. They're no different than the airline industry in the days and months after September 11th when George Bush extended short-term loans. Today in Ohio, there are 850,000 jobs saved because of a pen stroke. Barack Obama and the men and women in Congress who stood up for those jobs. And in Ohio, jobs matter. We're a full point ahead of the national unemployment rates in terms of 7.1 versus 8.1. The results are in. We didn't create the recession. We created the solutions. And the solutions are bearing fruit in great cities like Toledo and Columbus and Cleveland.
Now, there are some who would say that while that economic story certainly could be helping the president, it's just as likely that the amount of money that has been spent in Ohio could be a factor here. There have been millions and millions of dollars of negative attacks on Mitt Romney in the state of Ohio. So how much of his success, the president's success in Ohio, is about the fact that Democrats have made Mitt Romney unacceptable?
Oh, Amy, if we're going to compare what has been spent against the president, against Senator Brown by those Republican special interests, $16 million has been spent against Senator Brown by those who are opposing him just in the last 6 months.
Let's not talk about the Senate race. Let's talk about the presidential race for a second.
But we have to view it in the context of all of those dollars because the record of Senator Brown mirrors the record of President Obama. And when the Koch brothers organized and pushed by Karl Rove are in Ohio spending $16 million on a Senate race, they're spending that much on the presidential race.
Well, they're spending that much talking about Sherrod Brown and Sherrod Brown's record, but it's not going after the president specifically.
I'll tell you why we're going to win in Ohio. We built the best field program in the nation. And as you know, turnout matters. And still in Ohio, when we count those votes, those 35 days that we have early vote in Ohio and on election day, we're going to see the best turnout machine in the country.
Let me ask you about that big ruling, court ruling in
Yep.
your favor. I guess it was last week, saying that now early voting can go all the way up through the weekend before the election.
Right.
How important is that for you? Like, in other words, had that not happened,
Sure.
had the court case not upheld your position, how bad would that have been for the Democrats?
Well, we know the importance of Cuyahoga County and Cleveland. Half the voters in Cuyahoga County voted early 4 years ago. And many of those, tens of thousands, voted the final weekend, which the federal judge in the Southern District of Ohio just allowed against the wishes of the Republican Secretary of State. An incredibly important decision, but still this very day, the Secretary of State is refusing to enforce the federal ruling that Judge Economist granted, so we're asking the federal court to step in. I don't want to look back on 40 or 50 years ago, but it's akin to standing in the doorway of the university and saying no. Well, federal law and the federal judge has ruled that early vote in Ohio stands. It's the obligation of a constitutional officer to step aside and allow that enforcement to occur.
So are you worried that you may not have early vote over the weekend, that people may go to vote early and be turned away?
Well, we're quite confident that the federal courts are going to continue to uphold the state law and ensure that early vote occurs. It's important to recognize state law was passed by a Republican governor, a guy named Bob Taft, which allowed early vote. And so the Republicans today have learned we're better at organizing. We turn our people out. We do a better job of building infrastructure. Apart from the 30-second commercials, infrastructure matters. So what they're trying to do is peel back those 35 days. The law didn't say 17. The law didn't say 20. It said 35. And so we're going to court to ensure that every day is open to the public.
Something tells me Ohio is going to matter quite a bit. Chris Redfern, the chairman of the Ohio Democratic Party, thanks for being here with us here in Charlotte.
Oh, he also honored his Twitter handle,
Yeah.
at ODP Chairman.
Thanks, Sam.
Did you sign our iPad? Did we get a signature?
I
in here?
did.
Well,
I did.
Oh, is that a drawing? We love drawings. What are we seeing?
It's a state of Ohio with the Lake Erie Islands, where I'm from, way up here at the top.
And what's going on? What are those little? What's the X?
That's where I live.
Okay.
Up on the islands, up on Lake Erie.
That is a work of art.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That is.
I have a second job right there.
Yeah,
It's relatively.
We are.
It's sad.
It's
sad.
It's a passing grade.
It's beautiful.
It's a passing grade.
We're collecting. Thank you, Chris. We're collecting them all week long.
Thanks.
We're gonna have them online at the close of the convention. Again, follow us on Twitter at Rick Klein, at Amy E. Walter, hashtag it DNC 2012. We're seeing on the floor right now more of the action. Again, if you want to follow anything that's going on the floor, watch the speakers, watch all of the action down there. You can feel free to watch it at abcnews.com. We're going to be bringing our guests through, cycling them through fast and furious. We'll make sure you don't miss any of the best action. We guarantee you that. But we're also going to bring you the very best analysis.
Yes, we are. And in fact, what a great segue.
I'm all about the great segues.
He is a great segue into our next guest, Matthew Dowd, who does a lot of analysis for us on ABC News. Okay, last night was all about Michelle Obama, that energy and enthusiasm she brought here. Is that what the job of Bill Clinton is?
I think the job of Bill Clinton is actually to present some history and to put Barack Obama in the context of some history, which he's actually the best person to do that. He's going to talk about his years, balancing the budget, growth of the economy, all of those things. And then I think he's going to talk about what happened in the Bush years. And then he's going to say, here's where we are today. You could choose. The path that Barack Obama is going to be much more like what I did. The path of Mitt Romney is going to be much more like George W. Bush did. I think he's going to give a bit of a history lesson and then say, here's where Barack Obama falls.
Matt, I asked this question to Sam Donaldson earlier, because this is just in the pure 2016 speculation game. Is it better for a Hillary Clinton 2016 candidacy to see a re-elected Barack Obama or a first-term Mitt Romney?
I think it's much better to see a re-elected Barack Obama. I just think you have two. The interesting thing about Bill and Hillary Clinton is actually her loss has now propelled them to be two of the most popular figures and become U.S. citizens of the world. Her loss caused that to happen, actually. So I think she's better off having him win if she wants to run. As you, all three of us know, there's all this speculation that she doesn't want to run, but we'll see.
Matt, we cover a lot of these things as if surrogates can just transfer their reflected glow onto someone else. Bill Clinton, well, he's very popular among these white working class voters, so surely you can just say direct it this way. Does it work like that? I mean, how do you tailor a message to say, look, I know you guys like me, but like that guy, at least for now?
All of us have kids. To me, this is like conventions and politics and surrogates is like Lincoln Logs or Tinker Toys, and every one of them adds a part to it that builds up to something more whole. And I think Bill Clinton's speech, Michelle Obama's speech, all the things that happen in the course of the campaign all add up. On their own, they don't make it, but all add up to something bigger. And if you do it consistently, which I think they could have done, that speech last night, the speech tonight, and the president's tomorrow, could build that up to a whole that's bigger than each part, and that's what you want to do in the campaign.
So how much of this speech tonight, though, does Bill Clinton need to talk, not so much about what happened in the past, but what Barack Obama is going to do specifically that's going to make it look like it was during the Clinton era? I don't think many voters believe that we're going to wake up in 2013 and it's suddenly going to be 1997 again, right?
Yeah, I think most of his speech has to be aspirational or looking forward. And just like Michelle's Obama speech just started to turn and say he can do it in the future, all of these speeches going forward have to have a future oriented, have a more. So I think his speech has to have the biggest part of it has to be future oriented.
But are people going to really buy that? I mean, that seems to be the hardest thing that he has to sell. If you're Bill Clinton, the hardest thing for Bill Clinton to sell is this idea that, you know what, if you elect Barack Obama again, we're going to go back to the days like you had with me. It's going to look a lot like it was back in those good old days when we didn't have deficits and we had surpluses and people had jobs.
I think that he's, probably one of the most astute politicians of anybody we've ever seen. He's not going to do that. He's going to talk about it, put it in a context, but I think he's going to be measured in that. He's going to basically say, here are let me present two futures for you. This one is going to be hard, but we can do it. This other one is going to take us backward. It's not going to solve the problems. But he's not going to overplay this. He's much better at not overplaying his hand.
Matt, another big speech we're going to see tonight, Elizabeth Warren. Democrats very proud of her and the message she brings. How do you think she plays nationally to a crowd? She may not win in Massachusetts. She may win in Massachusetts, heavily Democratic state. But what is that message nationally?
I think her message is much more about the people in this hall and the Democratic base. I think for her, she is more of a traditional, what you would think as a traditional, stereotypical, what many people see as a Democrat. I don't think she helps at all with swing voters. In many ways, I think sometimes her tone and the way she is can be off-putting. If you think about somebody in Ohio or in Wisconsin, and her speech may not be the kind of thing they want to hear, but I think it's fully about this crowd and about the Democrats and motivating the base, and it's not about the undecided voters.
And, of course, it helps her build a national profile and maybe raise a little bit more money to run against Scott Brown, who's very, very well.
Kind of an important race.
Yeah.
Keeping the Senate.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
All right, Matt Dow joining us. Thanks, as he's been doing all week. We appreciate you being with us here to provide some smart analysis. We like that.
Yes,
yeah, no, I do think, Amy, that Elizabeth Warren pick for a big speaking role cuts both ways. Clearly, you know that she is popular with elements of the base. She can present this argument about Wall Street reform, about financial regulation in a compelling way. But if you're watching her in Ohio, is that the image that you want? This Harvard professor out there giving you that point of view?
Well, and again, we've talked about this so many times. It's about what you're projecting outside of the hall and what you want to project inside of the hall. But if she's doing her job right, and look, it's not as easy to win Massachusetts as many people think it is.
Right.
She's got to be able to do both of those things. She can't just make the case for a certain segment, even in Massachusetts. She's got to bring those Democrats back, many of whom look like the people who are in Ohio.
That's exactly right.
That's a very good case.
All right, joining us now, a senator from this very state, North Carolina. Thanks for welcoming us to your state and welcome us to the booth, Kay Hagan.
I think everybody's having a fabulous time in Charlotte, North Carolina. We really rolled out the red carpet with Southern hospitality.
Well, we're having a good time. We're enjoying the food. We're enjoying the view from up here. It's been a lot of fun so far.
All right, so give us your take on what's going on the ground here in North Carolina. We've seen, obviously, the fact that the Obama campaign really focused on the ground game, says that they've registered tons of voters.
They have.
At the same time, the president hasn't spent as much time in North Carolina as he has in places like Iowa and Colorado, Virginia. Do you believe, in your heart of hearts, do you believe that the Obama campaign is going to be fully invested in North Carolina until the very end? They're going to be on TV. They're going to be spending the same amount of money and time here as they are in the other battleground states.
They will be totally, fully invested. They've got offices in 40 counties around North Carolina. They are registering voters. They are canvassing neighborhoods. They are doing phone banks. There's this huge energy level, especially with the convention in North Carolina and with Michelle Obama's unbelievable speech last night. It's electrified not only the crowd here, but people all across our state.
All right, fully invested. We'll see him to the end. We got that. Now, I want to ask you, because obviously a lot of disappointed people outside this hall about tomorrow night. Some 60,000 people who thought they were going to be attending this event. A lot of them are North Carolina Democrats. Are you hearing from people, or how can they be made right? What has to be done to help the people that volunteered and thought they got a ticket to history and now they're shut out?
You know, people were waiting around the blocks at all of the OFA offices across North Carolina, waiting in line for hours. We had this stadium totally booked. And my emails, my phone calls my phone's been ringing off the hook. And if there's any way we can get them someplace, we want to do it. But people are definitely very, very disappointed.
So some kind of a watching party or something to be able to do it? You think something like that can come together pretty quickly?
I would certainly hope so.
Now, are you organizing any of those, or your office is organizing any of these watch parties or outdoor, maybe viewing events?
You know, we are right here in Charlotte. I am with this convention, being the host to help welcome people here. And people are from all over the country. They tell me they've never had such a good time.
Well, you know, we got some good barbecue in, so that definitely mattered. Tell us about I want to actually talk about one of your colleagues. I think you were up there, right, with the other women senators?
Yes.
Barbara Mikulski speaking, surrounded by those. Claire McCaskill not up there with you, though she's in a very, very tough fight. Tell us what you think her chances are in that race. Obviously, it's gotten national attention, and we know that the name Todd Akin has been used a lot.
Couple of times.
Here in Charlotte.
There are a lot of women here. There are a lot of women across the country. But Claire McCaskill is a fellow senator of mine. She is the toughest, hardest fighting senator that I know. She will prevail. She is going to win that race, and I think the people of Missouri are going to be thrilled to have her back. She looks at where every dollar is being spent, and she fights. She fights for people in Missouri. So Claire will be back in the U.S. Senate for 6 more years.
So it was a good idea for her not to be here?
Everybody's got to look at their states. Everybody's got to look at where they are. Claire needs to be in Missouri, going and seeing the voters that are going to support her.
We should mention that huge ovation behind us was for Cecile Richards of Planned Parenthood. She's been talking about Todd Akin very particularly. So what does that mean for women, the Akin comments, for those who aren't intimately familiar, talking about, wrongly, obviously, talking about how rape victims can somehow shut down a pregnancy on their own. He's apologized for it, but Democrats have jumped on it. What has that meant in terms of clarifying the choices from your perspective?
I wonder who his science teacher was.
Indeed. But what does it mean, though, in terms of presenting this? I mean, there's quite an ovation for Planned Parenthood.
Well, I think you've got to look at, to me, rape is a criminal act. Forcible rape, every rape is a forcible rape. And so when I think of people like Paul Ryan supporting issues like that, I think every woman in America, I think every man in America needs to be concerned about that. They have wives, they have daughters. You know, this is something that shouldn't be on a political stage talking about issues that are as important as that.
I want to address something that Republicans brought up last night. Their response to the events here last night, they said, we didn't hear anything from any of the speakers last night about are you better off than you were 4 years ago. It's because Democrats are avoiding answering that question. What do you say to that?
We are definitely better off as a country. You look at where we were 4 years ago. Before President Bush was still in office, 3.5 million jobs lost. President Obama's first month, 800,000 jobs lost. Look at where we are now, 29 consecutive months of job growth, 2 million jobs. You look at GM is the best automaker in the world. We have saved the auto industry. We've been able to be sure through the Dodd-Frank bill that we don't have too big to fail anymore. And we've still got work to do. We've got work to do in North Carolina to get our unemployment down. And I worry about and think about jobs, jobs, jobs every day. And that's exactly why we need President Obama in the White House for 4 more years.
And is the enthusiasm level quite where it was 4 years ago? It felt like it a little bit. We're getting close to it last night. But can you recapture 2008's magic?
we definitely can. I think when you hear President Clinton tonight, and then when we hear the president tomorrow night, I think people will be electrified. I think the energy is there. People understand that we have 62 days now before the election. Once Labor Day is over, people really begin focusing on the election. And I think that's what we're going to see. Obviously, the Citizens United case, I think the amount of outside money, secret money, that nobody knows who gave it, what's the issue behind it, I think that is not part of the democratic process. And I worry long term about how that affects every race in the country, and we need to fix that.
All right, Senator Kay Hagan from North Carolina. Once again, thank you for welcoming us to the state. We're having a great time here, enjoying our perch up here and enjoying North Carolina.
Come back to visit.
We'll do. I guarantee you, we'll do. Good. All right, Senator Hagan.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much. We're seeing Steny Hoyer on the stage right now, and we should mention a new piece of reporting that's come in. Debbie Wasserman Schultz a few minutes ago told us that Gabby Giffords was in Tucson, was not here. We're now getting confirmation though from Giffords' office that Giffords' spokesman that the former Congresswoman is in Charlotte. She does not have any kind of formal role in the convention tonight. Keyword tonight.
Okay.
So I think it's reasonable to expect that we'll be looking at something tomorrow night. So maybe Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz was mistaken in terms of the timing on all of this. They were hoping for some kind of a surprise. It's hard to get a surprise by 10,000 or so journalists who are teaming around Charlotte these days.
I know. No, there's no surprising us, especially when you have all these reporters huddled together in a big cavern for hours and hours and hours at a time. Rumors start, and then they get out of control.
All right, we're pleased to be joined now by one of the best correspondents in the business, I think it's fair to say, right?
It is not fair to say
Not fair to say that at all. All right, John Oliver from The Daily Show. And John, I'm struck by something you've been doing around town. You're asking people to write a new slogan for the Obama campaign. I think we have a clip if we can toss to it.
Yes, we can, but
with 3 words and an extra word that will ring from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Yes, we can.
But
yes, we can. But yes, we can.
But yes, we can. But
forward.
So there you have it. That sounds like a hit.
I cannot sing. That's what we learn as a fact there. Oh boy.
So the real question is, do you have the bumper stickers yet printed out? The yes we can, but
well, you just need that's the beauty is you just need the butt sticker. You just need the butt sticker and you slap it over what was there 4 years ago.
That is brilliant.
So it's environmentally friendly as well.
All right, but you brought up a really important point, though, for as humorous as that was, is that you're talking on the streets of Charlotte with the most committed partisan Democrats in the country.
Yes.
And they could not give you a better slogan than it could be better, but it's not so bad.
It's not ideal if you are the DNC. It is ideal if you are comedians lampooning that political process. So for them, I'm sure they were not pleased to hear that. For me, I could not have asked for anything more than
Well, there's the enthusiasm gap clearly, but there's also just the he was new last time. It's hard to be the incumbent. That's really what comes through in the people you talk to.
He doesn't have that new car smell on him anymore. But to be honest, inside it's much more excited here. People are really. The atmosphere here is much more fun than it was on the street. I mean, if you are getting this kind of reaction for Steny Hoyer,
right? Yeah.
This is not.
He's a very nice man.
I'm not saying he's not nice. What I'm saying is he's not Mick Jagger. So I'm watching Steny Hoyer come out like a boxer with music blaring everywhere. I think shows that people are a little over-sugared and overexcited. This is Steny Hoyer we're talking about.
We love Steny.
I'm not saying we don't love Steny. I'm saying let's get this in proportion.
Be realistic.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that sort of like? Let's admit it. These are all people who think that the folks on this stage are superstars, in the same way that the rest of America would see Hollywood, people as superstars.
Maybe.
But all right, so tell us what else you're up to here on the streets of Charlotte when you're not ambushing people with slogan ideas.
Ambushing. You're mistaking an interview for an ambush. That is.
I don't know.
These are unprepared citizens.
They are. You didn't tell them that you were coming. You just put your microphone right up there. You chit chat with them. You lure them in, and then they make fools of themselves.
It is an ambush in the sense that this was an ambush, and that you invited me here.
I
sat down
journalistic
and
integrity,
talking.
unbelievable. Yes. You did mention that Barack Obama doesn't have the new car smell. What smell does he have? do you think, in your opinion?
I don't know. I'm guessing a kind of cedar wood and wet oak. I don't know. I've not sniffed him, to be honest. You can't get that close.
Oh, that's a good point. The Secret Service.
I'm sure he smells delightful. I hope so. He is the leader of the free world.
All right. So, but what is next for you all? For these next couple of days.
For the next couple of days, we have. I can't even remember what day it is. I'm so tired. It's been 2 weeks. We got 2 more shows down here, and then we're going back to New York. That is, to be honest, literally all I can get my head around.
What has the crowd been like at these shows? I mean, you getting people that are into it? Yeah.
Oh, yes, we are getting people into it. Yeah,
because they brought Steny Hoyer on. That's how you get people into it.
If they've queued up for 5 hours in the Carolina sunshine, you can probably rely on the fact they are going to be into it. No, they've been very incredibly accommodating, very warm, very friendly. Yeah, we couldn't have asked for anything more.
All right. Was Tampa as funny?
Tampa was more muggy. It was intensely physically and emotionally uncomfortable. I'm British. I cannot cope with those kind of temperatures in any capacity. That is too much heat for me. My body shuts down at that point. We haven't been that hot since we were conquering parts of India.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point.
It's not a good point.
No, I think
it's a glib point.
It's a very. I was like, wow, God, he's very hot.
Yeah,
you learned the art of it. This is the art of the transition. Good point. We're moving the conversation along. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Need to ask you though, would it have been funnier if Barack Obama got rained on tomorrow night? I mean, just as a bookend for what happened 4 years ago.
Well, not even to what happened 4 years ago, but I don't know if you saw any of the Queen's Jubilee celebrations in London. She had a 1,000-boat flotilla, and it just rained and rained and rained on her. And there is nothing funnier than a wet Queen. And we didn't cancel it. We made her get wet. It's you weak cowards who've always said, we can't get the president wet. We can't let that happen. He should have been out there getting rained on.
You know what?
If the Queen can do it, so can he.
The president.
Yeah.
Did you make that case to the Democrats? Debbie Wasserman Schultz is down on the floor. You should go talk to her about that.
I'll shout it at Steny Hoyer from here and see if he can hear.
I think that's
Steny. Steny, let him get rained on, Steny.
It's late for that. Now, I don't know if you heard about what happened in our booth last week. Your colleague Jason Jones joined us. You did. Well, and I have a message. From him and from the delegates. You have to take it.
Yeah.
A full frontal poking. You got it. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I said if I didn't get poked by something, then clearly I wasn't doing my job properly.
We're doing our best to bring it on. That was a surreal moment, I have to say. We hear a lot about interactive conventions.
Yeah.
We'll show you a little bit about what happened last week with Jason.
Wow, someone's poking me.
That is something new.
I know, I'm sorry.
What's that? What?
It is
a convention. You're right.
He's talking about the death of his son, and you're laughing at him.
I wasn't even listening. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
We still don't know what to do with that.
The amazing thing is he deserves to have been hit by a stick so many times, and that actually wasn't one of those times. That's almost the one time he doesn't deserve. Oh, who's coming out now? It's actually something worth watching now.
No, well, it's all worth watching. And we just say you can watch it all, abcnews.com. We were talking over a lot of speeches. That's what got us in trouble, actually, with that particular delegate.
Yeah.
She didn't like that we were doing that. But that's, was part of the conversation.
Steny Hoyer fans don't mind.
All right, so have you ever been attacked by a voter?
I can't even remember. It's very. I don't think I have. I think honestly, American voters are much more polite than your reputation would have you believe. British voters are animals.
So they would come after you with canes constantly.
Oh, all the time, just as
umbrellas, anything they can get their hands on.
Well, that's how we get around. We fly with umbrellas.
Now the British have these very short elections. It's just boom, go off and running.
Yeah, it's not a year and a half, and it doesn't cost trillions of dollars. You're right. No, we have I think there has to be a happy medium between 5 weeks, which is what our elections are, and this 18-month circus that we are sitting in front of right now. I don't know if your elections have to be this long or expensive.
We've been talking about 2016 already today.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't doubt that you have that level of impatience.
No, I think that's about right. About 50-month campaign, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've gone in. We've already handicapped. We've already started spending money on 2016. Yeah. We have new logos.
That's it.
We are good to go.
It's the smart money which speculates.
That is absolutely true. But. Okay, so tell us what you think the rest of this election campaign is going to look like, because honestly, this is not 2008. This is not hope and change. This is 67% of the people in this country think things are off on the wrong track. These two men came into their conventions with the lowest approval ratings of any nominee coming in to get their convention.
Oh, it's so inspiring.
So how do you? Yeah.
You should be talking on stage tonight with music swelling up behind you as you say that.
Shouldn't I? So how do you? Can you even make fun of that? Because it just is
yes.
depressing.
Well, it is depressing. I cannot wait to see how they're going to spend the amount of money they have the capability of spending between now and November. Because that is not long, and they have oodles of money. And so short of just setting fire to $1 million and pointing at it and saying, look at that. That is what democracy is now. I don't know how they're possibly going to spend that much.
All right, John Oliver from The Daily Show, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. We appreciate your musical silence. Sign our iPad. I should warn you, Jason Jones was very funny in what he wrote. I can't share it with you right now, but it was extraordinarily funny.
What did he write?
I just can't tell you. It's just you have to try your best. But it's just, it's a high bar. Write something funny. Draw something funny.
Okay.
Just, your colleague was hilarious.
That is very general a direction.
Just
Thank
saying,
you very
just
much.
be funny.
Okay.
Isn't that what you do? It's that kind of a thing, right?
Kind of, at times, yeah.
All right, good.
A Comedy Central slogan.
Comedy Central slogan?
Yeah.
What is it?
For this election.
For this election?
Yeah. You can write it on there.
Okay, I'll do
with
it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do it for us. All right, John Oliver.
Thank you very much,
so
guys. Thank
you. Yeah, so that was one of the odder moments that we've ever had in convention history. I think it's our little contribution, perhaps.
Listen, we try to make everybody just lighten up a little bit during these conventions and see them for just the interesting theater that they are.
Indeed.
Right? And this if you haven't seen the full clip from The Daily Show of the Yes We Can, but it's quite funny and actually very smart.
And definitely worth it. All right. ABC Cecilia Vega joins us now, part of that powerhouse ABC political team that's been all over the place here in Charlotte. And Cecilia, tell us what's been going on. I know you've been doing a lot of star watching.
I know. I feel like I'm back in Hollywood. I'm normally based in the LA Bureau. I'm seeing more stars here in Charlotte than I do back home in LA. This is crazy. I was walking through the Westin across the street today, and we ran into comedian Aisha Tyler. We ran into Ashley Judd in the hallways today or yesterday. I mean, this is kind of like the star-studded team out here.
The really sad reality for me, Cecilia, is that I know all of the members of Congress. I can recognize them. Don't know who any of the stars are. Now there is
Amy thinks Steny Hoyer is bigger than Mick Jagger.
That's what producers are for. Because I don't know him either.
There's a rumor swirling around that two of the biggest names, people even I know,
George,
are going to make a drop by. Jay-Z and Beyonce. What are you hearing about that?
I'm sorry, my sources. We can't confirm that one yet.
You're working hard on it, though.
I know, we're beating the TMZ. We got to call. That is the rumor that they're going to be here tomorrow. There's a couple other rumors, and I haven't seen any of the names yet. George Clooney, I'm waiting to hear or see out here, right? We haven't seen Oprah yet. That's the big one, but I don't know that she's going to come. We'll see. Okay, but here's the lineup for tomorrow. I had to bring this is so you're getting the official records.
Yes,
because it's actually tomorrow is the big night where we're actually going to in the official lineup. We're going to start seeing people. So James Taylor, you know James Taylor. Come on,
I do. He's
American treasure, James Taylor. Yes,
and I love him. But how can James Taylor get the crowd fired up with Fire and Rain? I just don't know how that works.
But I like the lineup. So James Taylor, Mary J. Blige, that's kind of an odd mix. I'm going to be a little unbiased here. Earth, Wind, and Fire, they got me. I'm sold already.
Although there was some talk about taking up too much room on the stage, actually.
Because there's so many of them.
Yeah, it's actually a big band. Look at that play. It's not quite the stadium concert.
Foo Fighters, actress Eva Longoria, who's a co-chair of the president's re-election campaign.
Yes.
She is doing a 5-minute address tomorrow. We've got some videos, some other folks that we've seen out here in the hallway. Newman from Seinfeld, I believe, we're going to show. John Leguizamo, he's been out here also. Actress. Well, you guys talked to Ashley Judd.
We did.
She was
Delegate.
fantastic.
Delegate Ashley Judd.
OFA volunteer, canvasser, door knocker.
Well, we're talking about these famous faces. Let's show them. Cecilia, what do we got?
Let's see them. So those are the famous faces. And I also met up with will.i.am. Here's the interview.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about the tone of this election this campaign that we're hearing so far?
Well, this is different. You're not supposed to compare it to 2008. 2008 was the awakening of, the American, public and, bringing people together.
Think that's still there, that momentum, that energy?
But it's different. I don't think it's supposed to be what 2008 was. This is supposed to be, it's discipline, it's patience, it's, devotion, it's leadership and truth.
You know what I like best?
What?
The Men in Black contingent of security behind.
Oh yeah, no,
him.
they don't mess around. So here's the most important question: why is there not a Yes We Can sequel?
I know, right? He didn't answer that question. He's more this time. He's talking about education, so he's got a good message, but he's not doing.
But he can still make a song out of
I
that.
know we got to get him out.
So
there.
who has the entourage of the week so far?
Well,
I mean, you mentioned those folks.
Well, so tomorrow I read reportedly Scarlett Johansson, Natalie Portman, and Kerry Washington might all be on stage together. That's pretty good. But look, this is serious too, right? These people are actually reaching out to a demographic that the Democrats really want to tap into, young voters, women voters especially. So I don't know, maybe we'll see what happens. They got the stars out here, but some criticism that not as many as 2008. There were a lot more. There were bigger names
there
then.
are, as one person told us, it's the VMA Awards, as you may know, on Thursday. Again, I don't know anything about who goes to the VMA Awards because I do not know anybody who is in that era of musical.
Well, we may have to work on getting you guys a live stream booth next year at the VMAs,
okay,
and we'll get you
and
on
then I will know it. So that might have cut down on the celebrities. That's one working theory. Don't know if it's true.
But I was very impressed by Ashley Judd yesterday. I mean, she really came. She brought it. Richard Schiff as well. I mean, these are obviously famous faces, but they come with substantial. There's reasons for them to be here. They have causes. I'm interested also in the enthusiasm. I thought the way that will.i.am just put it, saying, "Well, it's not fair. That was the awakening.
Right.
This is different now. It's just a different time."
And they're making the rounds. Look, if anybody's going to pay attention to this convention who may not pay attention otherwise, they're going to pay attention because of someone like Ashley Judd and will.i.am. And so for that, I think the Democrats are probably really thankful, and I'm sure they've got a lot more invitations out that we may see some RSVPs to tomorrow, right?
Well, and that's a really good question because, the moving of the stadium, it's not just about those 65,000 or so grassroots volunteers that aren't going to get a chance to sit in the stadium, but you also have those big donors who are expecting to get really nice seats at that stadium. There's nowhere for them to go in here either.
Right.
So maybe Jay-Z, Mary J. Blige, others come
to our booth.
And after
to get the good
if they come,
seats,
they come here.
I think it's very clear.
They're also, it's not just here on the stage, but these guys are throwing some parties that go late into the night, and the big money, that's where the checks come out, right? And
exactly.
So
yeah, I like going to bed, but that's that's for some people. For some people. All right, so ABC Cecilia Vega, thanks for being there. They got the hard job this week trying to find famous people.
Yeah, I know.
Here in Charlotte.
Tough
All right,
one.
Thank you, Cecilia. But Amy, I think you're right. Look, they had this historic election last year. I remember even after he was elected, the White House Correspondents' Dinner the next year. It's teeming with people. All they want to do is just
have their picture taken.
Yeah, get their picture taken by President Obama. And that point that Mitt Romney made last week, what does it say? That as excited as you were when you voted for him, that you're not at the same level of excitement now. That is a powerful concept, whether you're famous or you're not famous. As we see now, John Hickenlooper take the stage from the state of Colorado.
He is, and
let's take a look at some of what he has to say.
As many of you know, we had a challenging summer in Colorado. Wildfires that devastated homes and businesses took livelihoods and lives. Then, a few weeks later, terrible shootings in a darkened theater. So on behalf of everyone in Colorado, let me start tonight by saying thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts and your prayers. Thank you for your generosity to families who lost so much. The president came to Colorado. He walked the charred landscape, met with firefighters, and also with those who lost homes or businesses. He and Michelle visited hospitals to comfort families of loved ones killed and injured. They shared in our grief and brought a message of support on behalf of the entire country. We weren't Democrats or Republicans in that moment. We were simply Americans trying to help one another. These tragedies remind us not to waste time bickering. We have the power to come together, and we need to do this as a nation. It will take a spirit of generosity and collaboration to meet the difficult challenges that we face. We recognize this in Colorado, where we've been able to pass vital legislation with with strong bipartisan majorities. I'm luckier than President Obama. After my inauguration, Colorado's Republican legislators didn't immediately start planning my defeat. We worked together. Some even complimented me for releasing my tax returns in the campaign. 22 years of them. We don't always agree, but when push comes to shove, Colorado's elected leaders cooperate for the good of our state. And consequently, we are moving forward. And we need to keep moving forward with President Obama. The president's policies are helping. He set a goal of doubling exports in 5 years, and so far they are up by almost 40%. In Colorado, agricultural exports jumped 59%. Overseas tourism is up by nearly 30% in Colorado. The president's all-of-the-above energy strategy means thousands of jobs. And using wind, solar, vast new reserves of natural gas, we are closer to true energy independence than we have been in recent history. And as the first governor since Sam Adams to get his start brewing beer, I'm happy to announce that even craft beer production is up 35%. Yes, Colorado. Now, we've still got a lot of ground to cover as a country, but we are coming back. Not as fast as we want or need, but unlike 4 years ago, we are finally moving in the right direction. Now, I know it's hard right now for a lot of people, and I've been there. Like too many Americans today, I was laid off and out of work for 2 years during the last really bad recession in 1986. So we started a brew pub. We were turned down by 32 banks and scores of investors. My own mother wouldn't invest. But we got there because, like so many other things, our business was not just me, it was we. All right? We worked 70 hours a week. We drafted the business plan with a librarian from the Denver Public Library. We secured a development loan from the city. My landlord invested.
John Hickenlooper, the Democratic governor of Colorado, we'll be talking about him as a 2016 candidate, potentially not so long from now, his success in a key state for Democrats.
He is a very interesting story. He's a geologist by trade. He was a guy, he's talking about this right now, who started his own restaurant, a craft brewery that now is very successful down near Coors Field in Denver. So he brings a very different perspective, of course, to not just being governor, but if somebody like this running for president, very different profile than what we've seen recently. It can't hurt to have a craft brewer in the White House, right?
I suppose
if John Adams can do it, why not have someone else who has that
his
experience?
cousin Sam Adams, at least.
Whatever.
I don't know that John was
Whatever.
Quite as
I'm
much.
sure he was.
We do know that President Obama has his own brew in the White House now.
Yes.
And if you're watching our feed just moments ago, you may have seen a couple of random people in the crowd. That was actually Jessica Alba and Eva Longoria.
And yes, and they were in a very interesting conversation. It looked
they
like
were touching.
There was a petting situation. I don't know exactly what that was. All right, we are now going to turn to our Yahoo colleague Chris Moody, who may or may not have any reporting on the Eva Longoria Jessica Alba discussion.
Well, speaking of petting, let's turn to me.
Oh, right. That's
Awkward
exactly.
transitions. We're all about that.
Right.
That's exactly where I was going. All right, so Chris, we have had such a build-up now for this Bill Clinton speech. Everybody coming in, expecting to see a man make a very strong case for Barack Obama. Tell us what you think and what you're hearing about what Democrats want to hear out of the former president?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's any question that former President Clinton is going to perform here. He knows his stuff. He's been doing this for so many years. I would be curious. I'd be fascinated to know if he's even been practicing his speech. He's been doing this for so long. But people want to see him encourage Democrats to get behind Barack Obama, and also why they should encourage their friends to get behind Barack Obama. And I think Bill Clinton is someone that can deliver that message very, very well.
I think people know that Bill Clinton is going to get that. I am curious tonight on how it plays in this crowd. People are excited about Bill Clinton. Beyond this crowd as well, do you get a sense that the Obama crowd is looking for him to deliver a message that works for them? That they're almost looking for a way to say, okay, well, that's the answer. We've been trying to find it.
Well, I have a feeling this whole convention so far seems to be delivered toward the base, specifically the liberal wing of the Democratic Party. And I just have a feeling that former President Clinton is going to be able to speak more to the center and speak to more Americans than they've been focusing on. And that could transition them into tomorrow when President Obama perhaps wants to speak to the whole party.
Chris, hold on for a second. John Carl is on the floor right now with two very prominent women of the Senate. John.
Hey, Rick, can you hear me? Let me ask you this.
Go for it, John. Go.
Okay, hey, Rick. As you can hear, it's gotten quite loud here. We are right in the middle of the California delegation, and this is why I love conventions. Look at this. Here we are, Senator Boxer, Senator Feinstein. What's the energy level here tonight?
Oh, I've never seen a convention, I've been to a lot of them, that has the energy level of this one. I was just saying to Barbara, I just can't believe how people are responding. It's incredible.
Really? You think more energy here now than 4 years ago?
Oh, it's amazing. Yes, I do.
Yes.
Why
would that be? And I think it's because people here understand the choices that we face. Whether you're a woman, when you look at this ticket and you see how this ticket, the Obama-Biden ticket, stands up and fights for us and stands with us. And the choice on the other side is just completely the opposite. They want to go back to the Bush days of that trickle-down economics. So I think people here get it. And our job, and we were just talking about that, is to leave from here and take that message across the country.
Now, you raised some eyebrows with your comments about Republicans. I don't know what it is with Republicans. Maybe they don't like their mothers. What were you saying?
No, I didn't say that at all.
Okay, give us the exact quote.
I was making a joke. I know. And the reason I made a joke is it is hard for me to understand this war against women that they're waging. Senator Feinstein and I, we see it every day. They've got dozens of bills to take away women's reproductive health, to criminalize a woman's right to choose. They vote against equal pay for equal work. And honestly, this is not the Republican Party we knew when we started out.
It's true. I hear a lot more about the social issues here at this convention than we heard in Tampa. They didn't talk a lot about abortion. They didn't talk a lot about those issues. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we're hearing more of it here? I mean, the Republicans are saying the only issue that really matters.
The Republican platform makes abortion illegal in the United States, regardless of circumstance. It is a huge setback. And the Republican presidential candidate himself, and I heard him say, I will close Planned Parenthood. Well, most of us believe that Planned Parenthood really carries out a very big mission for women, and women believe it too. And it's a real problem. I remember the days when abortion was illegal in the United States and when girls went to Tijuana and some committed suicide. I remember that. And I don't want to go back there. And I don't think young women want to go back to those days 30, 40 years ago either.
Okay, so how central is that issue? And I think what Romney would say is he doesn't want to close Planned Parenthood. He wants to cut off funding, federal funding for Planned Parenthood.
That's the point.
But
you cut off funding. It's the first step to ending it. Clearly, they can't
without the ability to take advantage of family planning funds. They really can't. So let's be clear on that. He wants to close it down. So does Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan actually supports criminalizing certain types of birth control. Now, to answer your question, why they didn't want to talk about it, I think they know it's a loser with the independent voters. Barack Obama is going to get that vote, going to keep that gender gap, going to get that independent vote, because they're so extreme on the issue of women's rights. They don't want to talk about it, and all they say they want to talk about are jobs. However, what they don't say, and what we say, is that in the last 12 months, President Obama created more private sector jobs than George Bush did in 8 years. So we're ready to talk about jobs, too.
Okay, so before you guys go, I got to ask you, it's Bill Clinton tonight.
Yes.
You've seen a lot of Bill Clinton speeches. Were both of you, were you at the '88 convention when he gave his famous, in conclusion and...
Well, Bill Clinton has gone from being a very lengthy speaker to being a very prescient speaker and able to take public policy and relate it to the basic needs of the average American. That's his genius, and he does it so well, and I'm so anxious to hear him tonight. I think it'll be very
As you said, there is some energy in this hall.
You see?
There's not much doubt. So, and just before you go, what do you expect from Bill Clinton? What are we going to be hearing?
He's going to make the case as to why the people should vote for President Obama, and he's going to lay it out clearly with facts. And he can reach people. He's a teacher in many ways, He lays it out and brings it home. I'm very excited.
You guys still love conventions?
Yes.
You're getting tired of them? You love them? Be honest answer. Well,
Well, this one I love because of the energy here. Sometimes they're kind of down. This one is way up, and people are charged, and they are charged up to really walk that walk and talk that talk. I think we leave here as one giant campaign, and that's very helpful because we got every state in the union here.
And I hate to be, so old-fashioned, but I love conventions. I think it's a chance for both parties to lay out the vision, and I think it's happening here. And there is palpable excitement here, and it's tremendous to see the interest. People sitting here I sat for 4 hours in one chair yesterday. People are sitting here hour after hour, just really taking in all the issues. It's exciting.
Well, I love conventions too. Senator Boxer, thanks, Senator Feinstein, it's great to be here in the California delegation. Take care.
So much.
See you. Thank you. All right, Rick and Amy, there you go. That's the word from California.
Word from California. All right, John, Carl, and Amy, we're getting a lot of buzz right now. Some of our guests are even being told they can't come into the arena. For some reason, it seems like access is being limited. We don't know if that has to do with capacity issues. We don't know if that has to do with a possible visit from a special guest. We do know that President Obama is in the city of Charlotte right now. I guess it's as good speeches to watch in the hotel room as anything else.
It is, but when you are this close, I know it's 8:49. There are a lot of delegates, media types, and of course donors. Oh, and look at their screen. We have Elizabeth Banks up there watching Delaware Governor Jack Markell. Clapping along with him. But also, look, there are a lot of folks who the stars, it seemed, came out tonight. We've already seen 3 or 4 of them. I don't know the woman with the pink hair. Maybe somebody on Twitter can tell me who that is, if she's famous.
We are unfortunately better at recognizing people like Governor Markell. We admit our own limitations in that way. Chris Moody from Yahoo is back with us, and I want to talk about something I know you've been reporting out a little bit. Mormon Democrats. We don't hear a lot about them. Obviously, this big Mormon year with Mitt Romney, but you have Harry Reid, you have others. What's the buzz, and what are you hearing from folks you're talking to?
Well, last October, the Utah Democratic Party started the LDS Democrats, and it has grown to become the largest caucus from the Utah Democratic Party. So yesterday, they had their first national meeting, and both of them met in a phone booth down in downtown Charlotte. I'm joking, of course. There's about 200 people that were there at the party, and it's fascinating. Their main message to start is, hey, we exist. We're here. There are Mormon Democrats. And then I spoke to one who basically said the Democratic Party or Mormons are our new mission field because they want to spread the word of the Democratic Party and say that you can be a Mormon and be Democrat as well. And they unite around economic issues mostly. They said they don't like to talk much much about social issues because in Utah, even among Democrats, issues like abortion and gay marriage still divide there, even among that party. There are more than 1 million Mormon Democrats in the country. And it's a fascinating story of a minority within a party that you really don't hear about very much.
So are they meeting here at the convention? You know, they have all kinds of caucuses. They have, for every different group, it seems, gets its own special status. Is there a Mormon caucus?
There is a Mormon caucus out of the Utah Democratic Party, and yesterday was their very first national meeting that they had, and they had crackers and cheese and no bar, of course.
All right. That's the thing. No bar at the Mormon caucus.
Which they made a joke about. And Harry Reid, who is the highest-ranking Mormon politician in the country, came in and spoke. And he said for 30 years he's tried to spread the word that Mormons can be Democrats as well. He said when he first got into politics 30 years ago, they went to church in Washington, D.C., and his son, who was much younger, obviously, those days, went to school, and someone said, I'm a Democrat. I can't join the Republican club at the school. And someone looked at him and said, "You're Mormon. You can't be a Democrat." And so they're trying to change that perception. Obviously, they are still in the minority.
And this is not the right year to change that perception with Mitt Romney getting his big piece of focus. I want to ask you about one thematic that I've noticed throughout this convention so far, and that is we've heard a number of speakers making a case for government. You don't hear people say it explicitly. You don't hear it said very often. But if you read a little bit between the lines when they're talking about education, when they're talking about infrastructure, even that idea of we make it happen, it is an argument for government. What's your sense of how they're balancing that with the obvious disdain for government that voters always tell pollsters about?
This week, they're embracing that message in a way I haven't seen in Washington in years, especially with the height of the Tea Party and the way the conversation has been in the past 2 years. Democrats in Washington and Capitol Hill don't speak like this. And now what we've seen time and time again, speaker after speaker, is personal stories about how government has played a role in their lives. So I think what you're seeing is a little bit more confidence among Democrats in their policy positions. Obviously, that's going to go head-to-head in November, but this is something new that I haven't seen in a long time.
I just want to break for some very important breaking Twitter news. You put something out in the universe, it comes back at you. I asked who the woman was with the pink hair. Apparently, it's Alexis Bledel. I don't know if I'm saying that right, from Gilmore Girls.
No relation to Jack Markell, the governor of Delaware.
Is that true?
We'll even get a pronouncer on that. We'll get close at some point. We'll have to have guests on that can actually do this stuff because
maybe
the celebrity sightings. It's not my thing.
It is really. We need to have someone just sitting in our booth looking out for celebrities, especially celebrities who have become famous in the 21st century.
That's right.
We're very good in the 20th century.
Show me James Taylor. I'm all about that. That's not.
We've got the 90s down. Right.
Okay, so who are these celebs? Does anybody know? Can anyone name those celebrities? They are wearing glasses, which makes them celebrity.
Tell us in the control room. Jared Leto. Okay.
Who's
Jared
that?
Leto.
I don't know who that is. But
we'll get that.
I'm sure he's a very, very, very important person. He has a nice beard.
He does indeed. All right, Chris Moody from Yahoo, thanks so much for being here. We'll check back with you throughout the week.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your insights.
All right. Well, we are hearing, getting a lot of Twitter traffic about this as well. People very frustrated about the fact that the fire marshal has shut this thing down. We are about an hour away from the primetime program beginning. I think we're going to hear a lot of frustration out there, and we could have something of a scene out there between police and folks trying to get into the stadium. So it's going to be an interesting rest of the night here if that continues.
It is indeed. All right, we're pleased to be joined now by Governor Martin O'Malley, the great state of Maryland. Thanks for being here.
We're hearing my honor.
Yeah, we're hearing people. They're shutting down access to the floor, even excitement building because there's so many people here. What's your sense of the trajectory of this convention so far? Where do we stand on the energy scale?
Well, I think that Mrs. Obama, with her performance last night, I think that capped off a day where we accomplished more as a party than the other party did in 3 long days. I mean, her speech was, I think, one of the great speeches of all time at a convention, and that whole day built Julian Castro's speech as well. So the excitement is high. There is a bounce in people's steps, and tonight I think is going to continue that trajectory, and then it'll end with President Obama accepting his party's nomination again. So we're fired up.
I want to ask you about President Clinton coming out tonight. Now, I remember some time ago, looking at a picture of you when you were first starting out in politics. The DLC was very much behind you, pushing you as a rising star.
And I was 12.
And yes, you were. It was quite amazing. You couldn't even vote, and yet you were already being picked as the new rising star of the Democratic Party. But, Bill Clinton ran as a different kind of Democrat. This was coming from a different part of the party, DLC, more moderate. He's now coming out and endorsing Barack Obama, who doesn't come from that same wing of the party. He seems like, is this going to be an interesting test here, I think, for Bill Clinton to make the case for Barack Obama for a presidency that looks in many ways very different from the one that Bill Clinton had?
I don't know. I mean, as I've watched both of them, I think that actually President Obama is a pretty moderate politician. I think he's a pragmatic politician. I don't see him as being fundamentally ideological. I think he believes in doing the things that work, and if they're working well, we want to do more of them. And if they're not working, regardless of ideology, you got to move on. And I think that's at his core is why people like President Clinton. So I don't quite see that difference between the two of them.
He's going to go up and Bill Clinton's going to be able to make the case for a Barack Obama presidency for the next 4 years, regardless of where we are today.
Amy, I think what President Clinton has a great capacity to be able to do is to take, complex macroeconomics and make sense of not only where we are today, but to make sense of how much we've recovered. We've recovered almost half the jobs we lost in the Bush recession, but what the choices are that we need to make in order to continue this expansion and grow it. And I think that he'll do it in a very frank and in a very articulate, clear way that all of us can understand.
We're continuing our star spotting here. Ava Longoria, once again at the DNC.
I heard she's in the house.
Yeah, she is indeed. A lot of people not in the house. We're getting lots of reports out there of people angry about being shut out throughout this convention. It's unfortunate when the crush develops like that.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, I think, every convention. I don't remember that happening as much in Denver, but I know in Boston there came a time when the fire marshals would come in.
Governor, one more question about Bill Clinton. What is the secret to his appeal? How does this man, who's been out of office now for 12 years, more popular than ever? Is it that the 90s look better in retrospect, or is there something about the way that people relate to him that has had his popularity endure?
Well, certainly part of it is his own particular gifts of communications, his ability to connect with people, but it's also, I think you have to give him credit for the results and for what he was able to accomplish during his 8 years was an economy that was expanding. He had inherited a huge deficit from Ronald Reagan. We thought it was big at the time anyway. And over the course of 8 years, not 4, over the course of 8 years, he was able to turn around that deficit, turn it into a surplus. And the way you do that is by creating jobs. You hardly heard any talk about that basic fundamental fact in the Republican convention, that the best way to reduce and shrink the deficit is to expand your economy and create jobs. And President Clinton was great at it, and George Bush was about the worst we've had as a modern president at making our economy grow.
But when I went back, I was reading through President Clinton's 1996 acceptance. Obviously, it was a very different time when he was running for re-election. But it was clear that after 1994, when he was handed a very big defeat, obviously losing Congress, his party losing control of Congress, that he made a very conscious decision to work with Republicans. They passed, he talked about in his speech that night, working with Republicans, passing things like welfare reform. Is that part of the problem, though, for President Obama, that he ran on being a different kind of politician who's going to be able to cross the lines, transcend this partisan mess, and he's up here right now with a partisan mess as messy as it has ever been?
Well, I think one of the big differences between the Republican Party during Bill Clinton's presidency and the Republican Party now is that the hardcore obstructionist ideological wing of their party is much larger and pretty much makes it impossible, even when they have the majority, for them to compromise at all. I mean, there have been several instances of Speaker Boehner feeling like he had a deal, going back and finding that the radicals within his own party wouldn't agree to it. So I think we've lost the better traditions of the party of Lincoln, and hopefully as a country we can get that back.
But does that suggest, though, that Democrats are willing to compromise and Republicans aren't? Because it seems like both sides have essentially dug in. It's not just simply that the Republicans are saying no to everything.
I think you've seen in President Obama a flexibility and a willingness to compromise way beyond what many in his own party might have advised him was prudent. I mean,
So
you look at
what
like
would
the
be
debt,
example?
the debt negotiations, and some of these issues on the budget, the extension of the Bush tax cuts, which are for millionaires and billionaires, making it impossible for us really to keep those public pillars of our economy, the infrastructure and the education, at the levels that they need to be. So I think the president is shown a remarkable amount of patience and is a person who's very willing to be flexible and compromise. But the Republican Party now is much more dug in than they were then. There really are members who run saying that they say things like we need less firefighters, less teachers and police. They really do believe that if they dismantle our government, and the more successful they are at dismantling our government, then somehow that's going to lead to a more robust economic recovery. But the essential fact here is, look, 29 months in a row, private sector job growth, but because of their obstructionism, 21 out of the last 22, we've been losing public sector jobs, the teachers, the firefighters, and the police, and others at the county and municipal level. So you need both. You need balance in order for the economy to grow.
Would anything change in a second Obama term? I mean, if this big national healing moment we seem to have in 2008 with people literally in tears voting, and this huge moment, if that didn't change, if that only got Republicans more dug in, a second Obama term, won't they just be saying, well, won't even Democrats say, let's wait this out? 4 more years, and then they got another shot at the presidency.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see after the president wins this election, and I do believe that he will win it. I believe right now all of us have to be honest and express our discontent that we would like to have had all of the jobs back by now that we lost in the Bush recession, but this is reality. And so I think what you're going to see, though, once he does win re-election, I think you're going to see a pretty clear message sent to the Republican Party that people don't want you to put obstructionism, partisanship, ideology, and electioneering ahead of the best interests of the party. The second thing is business people right now and corporations have a lot of capital that they're sitting on in our country right now, which they have not deployed because they're waiting until this election comes and goes. There's also a lot of pent-up demand. So I think once the president wins, once the Republican nominees are rebuked, and I think you will probably even see more members of the House as Democrats. I mean, I think the Democrats will pick up some seats once we get to decision point here. And I think you'll see part of this ideological log jam start to loosen up and start to see the predictability and the sustainability.
So will we see then a re-elected President Obama, for example, going in, sitting down with the Republican leadership and saying, okay, guys, here's the deal. This is what happened this election. This is what voters want. Let's work this stuff out.
Oh, I think
should he do that?
Well, sure, he should, and he's done that many times before. But they were banking that they would be able to slow the economy down before the election by voting against every single jobs bill. And let's give them some credit. They did a real good job of killing every jobs bill and preventing the recovery from happening as quickly as it might have under a more traditional Republican Party. So that dog, has worked real hard to try to catch up with the fire truck. But the fact is, we're still growing, we're still creating jobs, and I think you're going to see the president, because it's in his nature, he will continue to reach out and continue to forge and seek compromise, and maybe they will then get over their thought that somehow they could hoodwink all of us and intimidate the rest and make him a one-term president.
So it's going to be peace, love, and happiness.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that, but I do think that, look, they made a decision early on that if they obstruct everything that the president does, that they would be able to keep him from winning a second term. So you're seeing them banking on doing that. Once they fail at preventing a second term, I think you'll see some of more moderate voices in their party reemerge, because that's really what our country needs. We need the Republican Party back. We need the party of Lincoln. This Tea Party is not a political party. It is a radicalization of a once proud party.
All right, Governor Martin O'Malley of Maryland, I know you're here with your band, which is one kind of art, and I'm sure they're having a lot of fun.
They're here with me.
They're here with you. Oh, wow. That's well said. I need you, of course, to sign in on our iPad on the way out. Give us a drawing, give us a doodle, give us a sketch, give us a vision We trust in your artistic abilities. If you're a musician, you can be an artist, right?
All right, I will do my best.
All right,
I'm
good.
sure you will.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Great
Governor.
to see you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a
All
lot.
right. Governor O'Malley, so we are getting lots of reports about unrest outside the arena. We understand that people are being let in slowly but surely now, but a lot of people upset. Governor O'Malley mentioned that scene in Boston, and it was not a pretty one at the time. We remember that. The people really just pressed up against the glass, trying to get in any way they can. It's a shame because there's so much comings and goings throughout the day.
Right.
You don't really know when the moment is when you have to get down there to if you want to see the speeches. You can be shut out.
Well, and it's also a very scary moment to feel like you are in this crush of people, and that is really frightening.
So we should mention a piece of breaking news as we see Kamala Harris up there. Our George Stephanopoulos is reporting that President Obama will be in the hall tonight. President Obama will be in the hall tonight to watch former President Clinton. Apparently, his hotel television just not going to be able to capture the moment quite as he hoped. It does make sense, as we said. He's been in Charlotte for a couple of hours. Why not? Why not come on over? But we're going to see that moment with the two presidents tonight.
Yes, and so now that answers all of our questions about why there was the logjam. It wasn't necessarily that it was overcapacity. It was that, indeed, the President of the United States coming in, which means another layer of security. And for those of us who go through security at every moment, I can't even imagine what that extra layer means. But that is going to be an interesting shot for those of us to see, and we know what he looks like, right? We know what
who looks like.
We know what President Obama looks like, so we're not going to have trouble picking him out like we have with our stars.
Yes, no, I think that's right.
Stars.
And by the way, the control room is being very unfair to us and not telling us all about the people that are going to be there.
They're trying to embarrass us.
Great. Well, we're joined now by Cecile Richards of Planned Parenthood. Thank
Hello.
you. Quite an ovation that you got earlier. It seemed like you got the crowd going. You were the first to mention Todd Akin. So I want to start right there. Todd Akin, how important a moment is that from your perspective in terms of clarifying the choices in this election?
Well, I think everything that's happening here is clarifying the choices that women have in this election. I think Mitt Romney's done that himself. And I think he's taken positions that are so extreme, so out of the mainstream. I think Todd Akin is just one example. But when you have a candidate running for president who said he's going to get rid of Planned Parenthood and overturn Roe versus Wade, it's hard to get much more extreme than that.
Tell us, when you're talking to women voters, though, in some of these focus groups, where they put these issues in terms of their priorities. I mean, we're hearing a lot about the fact that they're just worried right now about putting gas in the car, about getting groceries done. Is this something that is really breaking through with voters in the way that it is in the political arena?
We're finding it absolutely is, and particularly with independent women and women who haven't been able to pay much attention to politics. They know very little about Mitt Romney. They say that. And, you know, the thing I think is important to remember is that the issues of access to health care, affordable health care at Planned Parenthood, that is an economic issue for women. You know, these are, I mean, whether it's getting access to your basic women's health care, getting health insurance coverage for preventive care. These are things, frankly, that Mitt Romney has said he's going to get rid of day one. And those, for women, those are bread and butter pocketbook issues.
Now, you're the first person, though, to really make this connection between the economic and the issue itself. So are you frustrated that Democrats haven't done a better job of this, or that the White House hasn't made that connection as strongly as you would like?
No, I think it's actually, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I mean, I'm frustrated with people who sort of somehow lump birth control and women's health care as a social issue.
Right.
Well, it's only a social issue if you've never had to get birth control. For women, these are basic issues. And I think that, again, we've seen in states all across the country, Iowa for one, where when we told women in Des Moines, Iowa, what Mitt Romney was pledging to do about women's health care, they simply won't vote for him.
I just want to ask you, because Ann Romney had that big moment last week. I love women. What do women hear when they heard that, do you think?
Well, I don't know what they heard, but I think women are going to look beyond the platitudes, you know. So it's not, don't look what I say, look what I do. And I think when you look at Barack Obama's record with women's health care, he's done more to expand women's access to health care than any president, certainly in my lifetime. And it's going to mean a difference for millions of women across America. And I think women are just beginning to focus on this election. I think it's going to be really important.
Are you surprised at how often these issues, whether it's abortion, and of course we've now heard a lot about Todd Akin and his comments, how much they've become part of the debate politically as well as in this hall. I mean, there was a time at which Republicans used some of these issues as a wedge against Democrats, saying this is the way that we can split more conservative Democrats away from their nominee.
Right. No, look at what I've seen. I mean, this convention in particular, watching the crowd last night, watching them tonight, every time anyone talks about women's health care, women's access to health care, the crowd erupts. And I think it's because women really feel like they have been under assault. There's a record number of bills introduced in Congress and in the state legislatures taking away their basic right to health care. So I actually think this is it's very interesting to see. I think it's a very mainstream issue.
Cecile Richardson from Planned Parenthood, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Checking in. We're going to toss quickly to John Carl on the floor with convention delegates. John.
All right, so Rick, I got to tell you, I am joined here by one of the most enthusiastic delegates I've seen, Loretta Harper here in the Nevada delegation. Loretta, how hard are you working to get Barack Obama reelected?
Right now, I'm tweeting my friends right now, telling them what's going on during the convention. My friends are tweeting me back and forth. They say, Loretta, you got 40 students here tonight at the OFA office working hard to reelect President Obama. They're doing Students for Obama right now. So I'm fired up and ready to go. I'm really excited.
Okay, now can you stand up for a second? Because I want to show what you're wearing here, because you put some effort into this. Thank you. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at what we have here. Loretta, Rick, can you see this? So now, was this made for this convention?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so let's. Okay, now Loretta, you are a Nevada delegate.
Yes, I am.
Your name's Loretta Harper, so I have to ask you, any relation to Bryce Harper?
No. No relationship.
None at all. Have you ever met Bryce Harper?
No, never met.
I mean, I think he's going to have to get to know you.
Okay.
All right. So what do you expect from Bill Clinton tonight?
Well, I know one thing. Remember I told you, he's going to put the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
He's going to set everything to the top. He's going to bring it down to paper level, make it plain and simple so everybody understands what's going on and what's at stake. He's going to rock the house tonight. I'm so fired up. I'm so excited. I can't wait because we need that little icing cream on the cake.
Now, is everybody else out there as fired up as you? There's
Yes,
a lot of
they
question
are.
about whether or not people are going to be
They're fired up and
enthusiastic.
ready to go. I know my team are fired up in Nevada. They're fired up. They're tweeting me back and forth. They can't wait to get back home because there's a lot of work to be done. Remember I told you I wake up every morning and I say, what can I do to re-elect President Obama? Right now, I'm tweeting right now to re-elect President Obama. I'm on Facebooking it right now. I'm looking at my grassroots fundraising page right now. It's going to happen. I can feel it.
All right, Loretta, we'll let you get back to your tweeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Rick, there you have it. I tell you, there may be a question of enthusiasm, in terms of the general electorate. Not here.
Not here indeed. I want to see that hat on you by the end of the night, John. I don't know if that counts until you actually wear it. All right, we're joined now in our broadcast. We're joined now in our booth with Congressman Steny Hoyer, the House Minority Leader, Deputy Minority Leader. I'm sorry, the Minority Whip. I need to break some news to you first of all, and I'm sorry to have to do it this way, but we had a correspondent for the Daily Show earlier, and he confirmed to us that you were not indeed Mick Jagger. He was amazed.
He did not.
Yes, he did.
Tell me that's not
it's
so.
It's true. He was amazed by the reception. He says, "What's going on here, Steny Hoyer? It's not like he's Mick Jagger."
Look, I went to the bank and said I'm Mick Jagger, and I was hoping that maybe I'd get a response.
Is that how you got those cheers?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yes. No, he was quite impressed that you were getting the reaction that you were getting from the crowd.
Good.
Now you've spoken at a lot of these things, right?
A number of them.
All
yeah.
right. Is that the best reaction you've ever gotten?
I think it was a good reaction.
Yeah.
And I think this is an energized
But you've had better. You've had better reactions.
Well, frankly, Amy, there are all kinds of speeches, and you've heard me give speeches. I can rile up a crowd. I can get them moving. My intent was, yes, to engender enthusiasm, but more importantly, to give information that say, look, here's what's happened over the last 4 years. And yes, we are better off. And yes, we have more jobs being created. Not enough. And we need to do more. We need to move forward. But so from that standpoint, it wasn't the real barn burner today was Emmanuel Cleaver.
Yeah, he does. All right, let me ask you this. We just had Governor Martin O'Malley on saying that He believes, not surprisingly, President Obama is going to win a second term. And when he does, that's going to help break the logjam in Congress. It's going to send a message to Republicans. They're going to be more willing to compromise. You work with these guys and women day in and day out. Do you really believe that can happen?
You know, I think, as I said in my speech, we've had really 4 years of obstruction and opposition and, frankly, an unwillingness to compromise. But I think we have a lot of very patriotic Americans on the other side of the aisle. They have a different view, perhaps, than President Obama or others, and maybe myself. But I think they're patriotic. They want to see their country grow. Right now, I think they're in a political mode. They're in a political mode. You may have heard me quote the Reverend Jackson, who said there are a lot of people in Washington who want to drown the captain and are prepared to sink the ship to do so. I think they rationalize that. In the short term, we're going to create failure, but in the long term, we'll take over and we'll make progress.
So you think it can happen?
I think it can happen, Amy. I think that I think there are enough people there, and frankly, I've had a discussion with the Speaker. I think there are enough people on both sides that want to make sure that this country succeeds, that we create the kinds of jobs we need, create the kind of progress we need. I'm an optimist, but I've been a legislator for a long time, and I think when President Obama wins re-election, as I think he's going to, I think there will be a change in the mindset that we're not just going to keep our country in gridlock for 4 years.
Where is your optimism when it comes to moderate Democrats? You've always had close ties to the Blue Dogs,
yes,
the moderate wings. A lot of your ranks were thinned out in the last election cycle. What is the future for moderate Democrats? Do you feel hope for that group in this arena and outside this arena?
I have expectations and hope. My expectations are that we're going to see a number of moderates win in districts that went very hard Tea Party right. And I think the residents, the constituents in those districts can say, look, I wanted a little bit of a change, but I didn't want gridlock. I didn't want total opposition. I didn't want people saying that 82 members on the House side are communist. That's not true, obviously, but it's the kind of rhetoric that inflames and does not lead to any kind of positive resolution. So, frankly, moderate Democrats are going to expand their numbers, and if they don't, Democrats won't take back the House. We need to win in moderate swing districts. We need to win in conservative districts if we're going to take back the House.
All right, you've worked with President Clinton, of course, very closely with him, and now worked with President Obama. What's the difference between those two and how they work with Congress? We've heard some criticism, even from some Democrats privately grumbling that President Obama doesn't do the care and feeding of members in the same way that President Clinton did. Is that your take on that as well?
I think they're different personalities. There's no doubt about that, Eamon.
You think? I wouldn't have known that.
I don't know that I know a more gregarious, outreaching, engaged individual than Bill Clinton. I mean, you got to love Bill Clinton, and he loves people. He loves being with people. Frankly, I have a very positive relationship with President Obama, but he's not as gregarious. And very frankly, you heard last night, I think, his priority. His priority was being at dinner with his two children, as Michelle said, and he hasn't changed. And he's been very protective of that relationship he has with his family. And I think that's a very positive nature. But there's no doubt, Amy, that everybody knows that Clinton was engaged with every member of Congress in almost on a daily basis. Not every member of Congress, but throughout the week, the month, the year, he was very engaged with members of Congress. I meet with President Obama. I really like him. He's good, positive. He and Bill Clinton both very smart, very knowledgeable on issues, but they're different personalities. So I think it's a fair observation that the care and feeding, as you referred to it, is not as intense coming from Obama as it was from Clinton. But I will tell you, when he wants something, when he wanted health care, when he wants the trade bill, when he wants a Recovery Act, when he wants to put people back to work, he engages.
He can be persuasive.
Yeah, he engages.
Congressman Steny Hoyer of Maryland, appreciate you being here.
Great to be with you, Rick.
All right.
Thank you.
Also known as Mick Jagger.
And I'm always pleased to be with Amy, who I think knows more about congressional races around the country than anybody I know.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
High
That's
praise.
impressive.
The Mick Jagger of congressional races.
There you go.
Thank you so much. I hope we sign in on our iPad. Doodle us something.
Well, that was pretty weak.
Oh, all right.
That's all right.
We'll make up for it.